Solskjaer, Deeney, Watkins. Sure, you know all about those last-minute goals, but have you heard the one about the on-loan goalkeeper who saved his temporary employers from disappearing out the Football League and into almost certain financial oblivion? Back in 1999, Carlisle United, managed by Nigel Pearson, were fighting to stay in the Football League. Carlisle's finances were precarious with a capital P that season, leading to a scenario where, with 3 games to go, they had to ask the FA to sanction an emergency loan deal to bring in a goalkeeper. Swindon Town's Jimmy Glass arrived at the club. His efforts in his first 2 games earned the Cumbrians 2 draws. Those vital points meant that Carlisle went into their final game of the Division 3 season, now League 2, needing Brunton Park deep into injury time. Scarborough's fans invaded the pitch en masse, believing their Football League status was secure, convinced they'd done enough to stay up. However, there'd be one more plot twist. Carlisle won a corner in the dying seconds and up came Jimmy Glass. In one of those you couldn't make it up moments, Glass scored from a rebounded header and was promptly swamped by teammates and thousands of fans who quite simply couldn't believe what they'd just witnessed. As for Jimmy Glass, he became an overnight celebrity, but he never played for Carlisle again, and his playing career never really kicked on after that defining moment. He took on various jobs outside of football before finding his way back into the sport as player liaison officer at Eddie Howe's Bournemouth, and most recently the general manager at non-league Wimborne. Not the fairy tale ending to one of the most Hollywood moments in football, but the name Jimmy Glass will live on forever as the scorer of that goal, arguably the most important in any club's history.
Welcome to Kickoff. I'm Natalie Sawyer, and alongside me this Monday evening, I've got the Daily Mirror's assistant editor Darren Lewis and also former England midfielder Danny Murphy. We're going to be looking back on the Three Lions' 2-0 win over Andorra and ahead to tomorrow night's match in Serbia, whilst we'll also hear exclusively from both Thomas Tukul and Harry Kane on the show. Plus, Andre Onana is finally leaving Manchester United. We'll look at the fallout from Daniel Levy's departure from Tottenham Hotspur and find out what today's news regarding associated party transactions actually means. This is Kickoff on talkSPORT. Darren and Danny, good evening. How are you?
All the better for working with you, Natalie.
Oh, the charm. That's lovely.
No, I didn't know till a bit earlier. Someone sent me a message.
Oh, nice.
Because normally Mondays was a mix between a couple of different people, wasn't
Adrian
it?
and Danny.
Yeah.
Danny Kelly
yeah.
and Adrian Darren.
Sorry, you got me.
Right pick.
I know.
Oh, I get you. He's good. He's
Hope you're not listening, eh, Dan?
Tell you what, though, this is nice.
It's your first time.
It's my first time.
Well, welcome.
Honestly,
Making your
it's
debut then.
Absolutely sensational.
It's not bad, is it?
It's very impressive.
You'll find some flaws. You'll find some flaws along the way. I
you.
know. This big screen is in our way, but hey-ho.
A bit bold with the blue, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all right. It's all looking good. Yes, indeed. So this is it. This is us this on a Monday evening, and we're looking forward to it. We were all chatting beforehand. We didn't even look at the show. We were gossiping away. But it was all fun, which is what it's all about.
Let's not talk about what we talked about.
No, what we don't. I'm afraid we can't. Pre or post watershed.
No, indeed.
talkSPORT, by the way, is now on your smart TV. Just grab the app on Android TV and Google TV, and we're even on Prime Video. talkSPORT then live on your screen as well as your speakers. Now, before we get stuck into the Manchester City news and Premier League news that came out earlier today, magic moments of the weekend, chaps. I'm going to come to you on this one because you're leading the way on telling me how we discuss this one on the show. Go on, Darren.
Well, Florian Wirtz, absolutely outstanding free kick for Germany.
Okay.
Watched the match. Outstanding performance anyway. Not from the German team. They struggled to get past Northern Ireland, but Wirtz was just quality. And the free kick up and over the wall. terrific execution, terrific technique, an absolutely belting goal that wouldn't have been out of place in the Premier League.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, he's good technically. I mean, he's already taken a lot of corners and free kicks for Liverpool.
I remember you telling me before they signed him that he was going to be.
But the fact that he's taking them shows that they trust him. So he's obviously in training showing that the set pieces is a quality of his.
So
that technique's not easy.
When they go back, Szoboszlai or Wirtz?
Well, I don't think you should ever need just one because, I mean, it was difficult, really. When I was playing with Liverpool, I had the people like Redknapp, Gary Mack turned up, Stevie G liked to take the odd one, Robbie. So trying to get one was hard work. But actually, there's something good about having more than one as well because sometimes you just feel it.
Yeah.
You just feel it and I've got it. And when someone's that confident, that'll do him the world of good.
Absolutely.
I know it's not with Liverpool, but in terms of just feeling good in himself and walking on water a little bit when you've had a great game and scored such a good goal. So I'm sure we'll see him score a couple this season.
Yeah, okay. Well, what's yours then, Danny?
Well, I don't know if you know this, Natalie, but my love of golf is just it's just overgrown everything else in recent
really?
years.
What, to an obsession point of view?
Yeah, I watch golf probably equally to football now.
Okay.
And I watched the Irish Open. The tournament itself was amazing because of the fact that everyone turned up from the whole of Ireland, it felt like, to just enjoy and rejoice in Rory's success at the Masters. And then it felt like he'd not thrown it away, but not quite kicked on the back nine. And the Swedish boy who ended up eagling 16 and then birdie in 18, he was 2 ahead. So Rory was on the 18th, par 5, needing an eagle, which... You know, he's on the green in 2, but he's left himself a monster putt.
Okay.
But the place is packed and he holds it. And, I mean, the Ryder Cup is amazing. We've all seen that. And I don't know how to compare if you're not there in person, but I don't think I've ever heard such a noise as when that went in. It was a bit like a goal. It was that big.
Right.
And the cameras went round and you had people like jumping and celebrating like in a football stadium. You know, golf's got the etiquette and the kind of you're supposed to behave a certain way.
But Ryder Cup's had that for a long time, hasn't it? It's had that kind of, the Americans in particular, they've really bombasted.
But this felt like it was all for him rather than for the collective, which is the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
And you could just see him kind of like, oh my God. And he was, and then he had to get himself together to 3 playoff holes. Luckily for him, I felt for I think he's Swedish lad, Lagergren. He put it in the water on the 3rd play, went straight for the pin and missed it. He was unlucky, to be fair. And then Rory won it, but it was just golfing moments. I haven't seen many like that. Normally that wonderful shot or winning, it's a bit like with Sheffield won with that chip the other week. That wasn't on the 18th. It was a hole or 2 before. To actually do it on the 18th in front of everyone and the odds against you.
Yeah.
Incredible moment.
Yeah.
Do you know, I should tell you, right, I've actually started trying to play golf
have you?
of our chats with
Well, look, we'll have to come to this because we do have Matt Lawton waiting to speak.
Oh, sorry.
But no, it was really, I was just intrigued to hear what you have to say about the playoff. Obviously, I quickly wanted to mention Carlos Alcaraz, obviously incredible against Yannick Sinner. Another incredible major final between those two contested at the US Open.
Isn't it? 8 in a row, is it?
No, he lost Wimbledon.
Lost Wimbledon. Yeah.
Oh, Carlos Alcaraz. Yeah.
Yes.
But I mean, last 3 that they played each other in the major finals. But I'm quickly going to pick out 2 father and son combinations with Mickey Mellon at Oldham. His son Michael Mellon
Played
scored.
against Mickey.
Did you?
Yeah, Blackpool.
Okay. And then that was for Oldham, by the way. So Oldham won 1-0 at Cambridge. And then Charlie Wellens, son of Richie Wellens, scored the winner for Leyton Orient against Port Vale at the weekend. So I just wanted to highlight those. So there we go. Right, we're going to move on because we do need to understand what's going on with this latest announcement that's been made with Manchester City and the Premier League coming to an agreement on this legal dispute surrounding associated party transactions. Let's get to Matt Lawton, the Times chief sports correspondent who joins us. He's been waiting patiently. Hello, Matt. Good evening to you.
Hi, Matt.
Hi. Hi, guys.
Just sort of, if you can, sum up exactly what this was all about, because there might be people listening in not quite understanding it and how it's different, obviously, to the 115 or so charges as well.
Yeah, this has been a row that's been going on for well over a year, and it was sparked by well, not just the introduction of these associated party transaction rules that were triggered by Newcastle United's Saudi takeover, but City objected when their own sponsorship deal with Etihad Airways, which obviously is the state airline of in Abu Dhabi, that was blocked and it wasn't deemed fair market value. So this whole legal fight ensued, and initially City landed quite a heavy legal victory in that they won the argument in terms of the tribunal deeming the rules to be unlawful. But then those rules were revised, and City challenged them again because they said you can't just revise the rules and tweak them while we're still waiting for the full judgment on the first bit of it. It's really complex, and I can't wait to move on from this story because I think it's boring all of us to tears to some degree. But no, and today it's been announced that there's been a settlement reached. And such is the obsession with this story. Everyone tries to work out who's the winner. And it is quite hard to ascertain that. There's clearly been concessions on both sides. That's the very nature of a settlement. But, and it was something my boss said to me, when somebody sues somebody and takes them to court, takes legal action against them, if you settle on the steps, and the fact of the matter is this hearing was due to happen next month, if you settle on the steps, it's generally deemed to be a victory for the person that's taken the legal action. So it feels like City have kind of got what they want. The fact is, as I say, it was triggered by them being blocked on their on renewing their Etihad deal. The last one was, signed back in 2011. It was worth like 40 million a year. One can only assume that it's worth an awful lot more this time. And the fact is, as we understand it, they're now allowed to push ahead with that deal. So while the rules stand, the revised rules now stand, so the Premier League will be happy about that. I'm sure in the coming weeks we will hear that, yes, City have signed this new huge sponsorship deal with Etihad.
Yeah, and I suppose there'll be other clubs now looking on thinking, hang on, how are they allowed to do all of that, really, when they've been blocked by doing it, perhaps, Matt?
Well, no, it's look, the key with all of this is around this phrase, and again, I'm looking forward to the day when I don't have to write it. It's fair market value, right? But one of the key judgments, and Martin Ziegler's written a piece more specifically about this for us tomorrow. One of the key parts of the first judgment was the fact that the Premier League rules didn't recognise that, let's say for argument's sake, the value of Coca-Cola on the shirts of Newcastle might be different to the value of Etihad on the shirts of the Premier League, of Manchester City. And for that reason, you have to recognise that there are unique elements to these deals, and the word bespoke is the key word here. So if there's been recognition that, look, a deal with Etihad Airways for a state airline with Manchester City is more valuable than perhaps the more standard sponsorship deals we might associate with being on the front of shirts of our football teams, then City have kind of got what they want. And I guess that may concern some people because these deals, if they are now recognised to be unique, will be unique because the chances are they're going to be worth a lot more than what other people are prepared to pay.
Matt, you've done brilliant.
Oh, let me see. We'll just get Darren's mic up. No. Next one. There we go.
The president has been silent.
Some would say that wasn't a bad thing.
Not a bad thing at all, exactly. You've done brilliant award-winning work around this for a long time, Matt. But sometimes with stories like this, because they're complex, people do tend to not follow it all the way to the end. So just explain why this is so important.
Well, look, I think, Darren, yeah, it's important because the fact of the matter is we do worry about the rich getting richer and Premier League competition being impacted by that. In fairness to Manchester City, I think they would push back on any idea that they're suddenly going to announce something stupid, £1 billion a year sponsorship deal that's going to blow everyone out of the water. I think it will be sensibly priced, but it's significant in that, as I say, the state-owned teams do have these incredible situations where they could be sponsored by incredibly wealthy organisations who have an association with the actual owners of the football club. So that has always been of concern. As I say, City will contest that they're trying to ruin the sort of competitive element of the Premier League, and the proof of that, I guess, will be in the size of the deal that they eventually unveil. But I suppose that the root of these concerns, I always go back, Darren, to when we were looking at, I saw this bar chart. I've mentioned this before on talkSPORT. I saw this bar chart, and it was the amount of money that Aramco, which is the Saudi oil company, makes per quarter, per yearly quarter. And it added up to more than Google, Microsoft, Apple, Elon Musk lot, all combined, they make more money. So I guess the reason we have these rules and the reason they're important is to make sure that the market isn't distorted to such an extent that no one else can compete. And the fact is, Liverpool have managed to compete. Arsenal have done very well and are competing. And as long as that competition is protected and the level of competition that ultimately is the value of the Premier League, right? It's what we all love about the Premier League. As long as that's protected and everything is relatively sensible, then I don't think we should panic too much now.
And just briefly then, obviously it's not associated, as I mentioned, with the alleged breaches. That case is still ongoing and we're still awaiting to hear the outcome of it. Are we any step closer to knowing? Because it feels, Matt, like we've been saying for months, in a few weeks.
Feels like Tommy Lee Jones chasing after, who was it in The Fugitive? He was chasing after.
Yes, I know what you mean. You can't think of that. Don't ask me to remember names.
No, well, I went on holiday. I went on a family holiday at Easter, and I took my laptop just in case the story broke while I was on holiday. Right. Because there was, honestly, I was having conversations with other journalists, the people both at the Premier League and at Manchester City. Other people were taking laptops away because we thought it was coming at Easter. The latest I've heard is next month, but then last month I heard it was this month. So nobody knows that, but it has to be soon. And again, there's part of me that selfishly hopes there is some kind of line drawn under it. I really do hope, for my own sanity, that this doesn't just go on and on and on and on, and they keep fighting. Because I would quite like to write about. I am going to Tokyo tomorrow to cover the World Athletics Championships, which is my sort of annual indulgence. But yeah, I'm quite keen to go and write about something else, if I'm honest.
Harrison Ford, Matt.
Yes, Harrison Ford.
There we go.
If that was your question, Darren, I could have answered that about a minute ago. But yeah.
I'm sure he did one with Wesley Snipes as well.
It was the second one.
Oh,
so it was right.
Okay, all right. I thought you were like playing, I don't know, noughts and crosses over there, the way you were both scribbling on
we
the
were just trying to work it out.
There you go. Matt, thank you for clearing all that up. Enjoy Tokyo, because I think the World Athletic Championships will be a lot of fun, so thank you. You are listening into Kickoff on talkSPORT this Monday evening with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over, gambleaware.org. Next, we're going to be looking ahead to Scotland's World Cup qualifier against Belarus tonight. That kicks off at 7:45. Very good evening to you. This is Kickoff on talkSPORT with Danny Murphy, Darren Lewis and me, Natalie Sawyer, as we take you through until 10 this evening. And don't forget, later on in the show, we will be hearing from the England head coach Thomas Tukul and England captain Harry Kane ahead of their World Cup qualifier against Serbia tomorrow night live here on talkSPORT. It's time for us to bring you a latest odds update with Ladbrokes.
Odds update on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
Welcome. Good evening, Cal Gildart. How you doing?
Hi there. I'm fine, thank you. Yourself?
Yes, very, very well, thank you. And very much looking forward to a couple of World Cup qualifiers for us to look ahead to. In particular, tonight, Scotland taking on Belarus. They came away with a really good point at Denmark, didn't they, a couple of days ago? So how are they looking for this one?
Yeah, Scotland are the big favourites for this one. And I'll have to try to get this right. Zalagazeg. They're 4-11, while the nominal home side are now 8-1. They were 6 before the team sheets, so I don't know what changes have come in there that have pushed Scotland in. But with the draw being a touch over 3-1, I think it reflects the contrasting form of both sides. Like Belarus have lost 8 World Cup qualifiers in a row, and believe it or not, Scotland have lost just one of their past 17 if we exclude the playoffs.
Wow.
They've got to feel buoyed by that great point against Denmark as well. Perhaps even a bit miffed they didn't take all 3. Not sure they'll repeat Greece's 5-1 win over Belarus the other night. That's only 40-1 though, by the way. I'm expecting a comfortable Scotland win, and I do want to find a bit of value here, so I think a bet builder's worth a look. Okay. Greece centre-back Konstantinos Mavropanos, he had 6 attempts against Belarus the other night, with 3 of them on target, so I don't think their set-piece defending is much to write home about. John Souttar is Scottish for Mavropanos, I think I've found. And a bet...
If you say so, Cal.
A bet builder with him to have 1 attempt on target and Scotland to win a match with more than 2.5 goals pays an intriguing 10-1.
Ooh, okay. And he's made a few changes. Has oh my God,
Steve Clark.
Steve Clark had a complete. I was thinking of Steve Martin, and I was thinking it's definitely not Steve Martin. Steve Clark. He's made a few changes to his lineup tonight as well. But let's move on to tomorrow night's game. I've already mentioned it. England taking on Serbia in Belgrade. Perhaps the toughest test really in this qualifying group for the Three Lions, Cal.
Yeah, England are still odds on at 4-5. Serbia 7-2, and the draws are generous looking 12-5. They've got a 100% record in qualifying, but England aren't half making it hard to make a case for them tomorrow, especially at odds on. Serbs, they're well organised, and they're going to be right up for this as their best chance of making up ground on England too. They've not lost a home game for more than 2 years, and like England, they've not conceded a goal in qualifying yet. So if you're feeling down on England, you can get 2-1 for a Serbia draw double chance and under 2.5 goals, or you can get 15-2 that there's no goal scorer tomorrow. But England have that individual quality, don't they? And despite everything, a moment of magic never feels too far away. Harry Kane's almost always involved when that happens. So my best bet for anyone back in Thomas Tuchel's side is England 1-0 with Harry Kane getting the goal, which looks a good price at 17-1 with Ladbrokes.
All right, we like the sound of that, Cal. Brilliant. As always, Cal, nice to have you on the show. Thank you very much. That was, of course, the latest odds with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over, gambleaware.org.
Odds update on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
Now, kicking off in around about 20 minutes' time will be Scotland as they take on Belarus in their latest World Cup qualifier. Paul Mitchell will be looking ahead to this one for us. And Paul, I mentioned there a few changes to this Scotland side after that one that picked up that point in Denmark.
Yeah, Natalie, 4 changes to the Scotland side for this one. Aaron Hickey, Grant Hanley, Ryan Christie and Lyndon Dykes all drop onto the bench. Mac Johnson, Scott McKenna, Billy Gilmore and Ben Gannon-Doak all come into the starting lineup. A more attacking lineup this. Angus Gunn in goal, the back four of Johnston, Souttar, McKenna and Robertson. Billy Gilmore will anchor the midfield with John McGinn, Lewis Ferguson and Scott McTominay, Serie A winner, looking to get forward. Shea Adams and Ben Gannon-Doak 2-1. They have made 8 changes, including changing the goalkeeper. Safe to say the boss wasn't overly happy with that. I would caution Scotland here. Belarus played their Nation Leagues matches at the ZT Arena in Hungary. They drew all 3, including one against Northern Ireland. It's just 2 goals in the 3 matches. Goals hard to come by. Remember, this one will be played behind closed doors, but it is a must-win for Scotland. And I'd say I like Stephen Clarke's side. I like how he's laid them out. And I do fancy Scotland tonight.
Brilliant, Paul. Thank you very much. OK, we're going to be looking now after the break at the latest surrounding Tottenham Hotspur as the club insist they're not for sale.
Let's be honest, we've all found ourselves raging at a referee's decision at some stage. Something like this?
That is an absolutely shocking decision.
They've got a case in that it was a bad decision.
It's such a poor decision.
Yeah, I think he's just made a bad decision in that instance.
But what does it take to get to the very top level of football refereeing? You can apply to become a referee through your local county FA from as soon as your 14th birthday. After spending several hours either in the classroom or on the pitch, they'll grant you Level 7 status, which allows you to officiate amateur games. Then you'll work your way through the ranks of amateur football, not reaching the National League until Level 2. It's a long process, bearing in mind every level from 7 upwards takes an average of a year. Also, there's no specific number of games you have to ref or hours you have to log before moving on up. You simply just have to be good enough. Once you're Level 2 and have enough experience at a National League level, you can apply to the EFL to become a Level 1 referee. Then it's on you to get enough experience to climb through the ranks and eventually become a Premier League referee. In total, there are 37,000 registered referees across.
Good evening. Welcome to Kickoff. It's Danny Murphy, Darren Lewis and me, Natalie Sawyer, taking you through until 10 this evening. And in the show, we're going to be discussing the very latest on England and be hearing from our England correspondent Faye Carruthers as well as Adrian Durham, both in Belgrade ahead of that Serbia qualifier tomorrow. We'll keep you updated with Scotland as they face Belarus in their latest qualifier too. And a little bit later on, we'll be discussing the situation of Andre Onana and the goalkeeping issue at Manchester United, but Onana leaving the club to head to Turkey. More on that to come, but right now, let's discuss the situation of Tottenham, who have this very day put out a statement to say that they are not for sale. That after two expressions of interest were unequivocally rejected by the hierarchy. The statement in particular from the club said this: the board of Tottenham Hotspur Limited is aware of recent media speculation and confirms that its majority shareholder Enoch Sports and Developing Holdings Limited has received and unequivocally rejected separate preliminary expressions of interest in relation to proposals to acquire the entire issued and to be issued share of capital of Enoch. They say ultimately the club is not for sale and that Enoch has no intention to accept any such offer. I was on Thursday and I was behind the scenes waiting to come on air, and the news broke on Daniel Levy. It shocked everybody. No one saw that one coming at all. But it kind of led to a lot of people, Darren, speculating, well, maybe this means that there's a potential sale on the cards. And I know that Tottenham have now put this statement out, but do you believe that to be the case?
Normally, I'd be, certainly under the old era, I'd be a bit sceptical, but I've seen the interview that Vinay Venkatesham gave the CEO earlier today.
That's right.
And he was answering a series of questions, and it was very well done by Tottenham as a club to put him out and to get him to answer the kind of questions that fans would have been asking. And he was unequivocal that not only are they not for sale, and he prefaced what he said next by saying, listen, I don't want to see stories in tomorrow's papers talking about war chests and whatever else, but we do have the finance to be able to match our ambition, and we do want to be ambitious in the transfer market. And the significance of all of that for me was that Daniel Levy was never that. You know, that's a big part of why Spurs fans were so angry, because a story like this would just be allowed to develop and gather momentum, and we would all be talking about it, and there'd be no answer from the club. It's such a dated way of doing things, because in the modern era, communication is key. And that's why so many fans have such good relationships with clubs, and so many clubs are able to execute their transfer strategies well. If you look at what Arsenal are doing at the moment, the documentary that told fans so much about what they want to do in the short term, the medium term and the long term. Spurs have not had that for quite some time. So I think as far as Venkatesham is concerned and the club are concerned, and he did talk about the fact that Joe Lewis's daughter, I think it is, and his son and son-in-law as well, he said that they're all taking a much stronger interest in the club. So for me,
if it was up for sale, genuinely, and there was, this is a smokescreen, which I don't think it is, then why would you get rid of Daniel?
Absolutely.
I mean, he'd be perfect for that.
Yeah.
Although listening to Simon speak a little bit this morning, he thinks there's might a bit more to it, and he knows people.
Oh yeah, he knows much better.
So maybe we're wrong.
But I mean, what I would say, Dan, the best and best executed takeovers, they come from the clouds. You hear about them and they're done. There is not this paper trail and smoke signals and whatever else. They're done just like that. If you think about Chelsea, you think about Manchester City, they're so, at that level, they're so superbly executed, you would not get media speculation and whatever else. It would just be concluded.
There's been a lot of talk, hasn't there, about opinions on Daniel and what he did do well and what he didn't do well and what his good points are and not. My experience with Daniel when I was at Tottenham, and I nearly signed there under Daniel, well, I turned down once and then I signed the next time, so I got to know him reasonably well.
He was really good with your dad when you had.
Well, so he. One thing I think people class him as, if you forget his brilliant business acumen or lack of ambition, whichever end of the spectrum you want to go, he's actually a kind guy. He actually cares. So when my dad passed, when I was playing for Tottenham, and it'd been an illness where I'd spent some months with him as he passed, I'd kind of didn't speak to the press. And I've told this story again, but I think it's probably appropriate to tell it again. When I come to the end of the season, and I'd been there 18 months, I knew some players had come and gone, and the squad had kind of moved on, and Martin Yol and I weren't best buddies, let's just say. Partly my fault, to be fair to him, but it was time to go, and I was struggling to get a move, basically because I'd been in the wilderness, but nobody knew why. And what clubs do is they'll ask the question to your agent, well, where's he been? What's been happening?
Yeah,
because I didn't want to talk about it in the press, and I didn't want to do the, I wasn't on social media talking about, I wouldn't do, I wasn't just who I wasn't, I wasn't that person. So in the end, I moved on the very last day of the window because Daniel allowed me to go for next to nothing, even though I had time on my contract.
Yeah.
Because he saw that I just wanted to play what I'd been through, and it was a gesture that I didn't expect, especially the way people perceive him to be. So yeah, I ended up with an option of Fulham or Birmingham on that particular day, and went to Fulham. But I wouldn't have had that wonderful journey with Fulham and that chapter if he'd dug his heels in.
And you had turned him down 18 months previous because you couldn't communicate with Jack Santini.
But even then, actually, I'm glad you said it because, no, the Santini one was early years.
Right, okay.
In fact, Daniel was there. Frank Arneson and Jack Santini, that's right. God, it's that many years ago. But when I turned Tottenham down, that was not because of Daniel or money. That when I was leaving Liverpool, I wanted some stability. And when I turned them down, Daniel actually called me for a chat about it, to listen to me and explain my reasoning. And we chat for half an hour, 40 minutes. Because I was saying to him, look, you've got this it was new then having a sporting director.
Right, yeah.
You've got Frank Arneson, who's great. He showed me around the club. He sold me but he's not my manager. And then I met Santini. His English was awful. He didn't really know who I was. And he was going to be picking the team. So I was like, it's not about the money. It's not. I just want to feel comfortable. And obviously I got on great with Curbs initially at Charlton when I went there. But I just think it's nice to give a different perspective of somebody.
Well, yeah, you've got a unique angle on this that not many of us would know about.
I think that angle is really important because I think Daniel Levy ended up being a bit of a pantomime villain over the years. And when you think about what he's done for Spurs in terms of everyone says the same things, the training ground, the stadium, whatever else. I actually think there has been a kind of reinvention of history since the news broke, because a lot of Spurs fans were coming on last week and saying, don't have a go at him, he's been brilliant for the club. But every time I've been on a show here or elsewhere and the club has come up, lots of people have vilified a guy who only ever tried for his life to do well at Tottenham.
Well, I think where the criticism comes is that I think most Tottenham fans, because if you look at the numbers, they have been cautious in terms of their annual wage bill and their spend a few quid, but it's the wages that get the good players in. And they've never taken that risk and gone up. Their percentage of income to wages is one of the lowest in the Prem. I think it is the lowest.
Yeah, I think it.
So I think the fans got frustrated going, why don't we just kick on? It's all right getting a manager in, but if you're not giving him the wage budget to bring in top quality, you're always going to be a bit behind.
And if you look at Liverpool, for example, 2011, they were spending £30 million on Andy Carroll on deadline day. A year previously, Spurs were spending £8 million on Rafael van der Vaart. And I think Spurs fans understood that you could do that for a time, but as the expenditure and the profile and the calibre of players available started to rise, other clubs were matching that and Spurs were not matching that. And again, I just think it's important not to reinvent history, because a lot of Spurs fans are now saying he was great, and he was great, and it is important to recognise he was great, but it's also important to recognise that many times we'd be in studios like this, it would be the Spurs fans who would be absolutely vilifying him when actually he put them in a condition to be the
But also we talk about the lack of wages, or the lack of ambition to make a bigger wage structure, if you like, but do we really know that was ultimately down to him?
Well, this is what actually was going to be one of my questions of, yes, he's the chief executive or executive chairman, as he was. How much was he the decision maker, or was it all Joe Lewis and Enoch behind him?
Well, what's interesting is that, and I know that from agents I speak to, he was very hands-on. And the guy who's going to come in is not. He's going to be a non-executive chairman. That's one of the things that Vinay Venkateshan was talking about in the interview he did today. He said he'll be involved in the board and he'll be doing various things, but he will not be as hands-on as Daniel was. And he was at pains to stress that. So it will be interesting to see who is going to drive what comes next. Will it be Vinay? Will it be the Joe Lewis's family, who clearly are taking a much more active role in in the direction that the club goes in.
There was a story generating over the weekend that said that the Lewis family and ENIC were going to put in 100 million as a result of everything, all these changes. And I'm sitting with Tony Cascarino at the time. We're talking about it and saying, what does 100 million get you these days?
Thank you.
It doesn't get you anything, unfortunately. It gets you one player, maybe.
Well, it gets you good. You can still get good players in for 40, for 50, for 60, for 70. There's lots of good players out there.
You can't make wholesale changes with it anymore, unfortunately.
No, you can't. But you ultimately will only get a certain level of player in, no matter what they cost, if the wage structure isn't competitive with the big boys.
Yeah.
I think the key thing, I mean, the story was done by a guy who is a brilliant news getter called Matt Law at the Telegraph. He's a superb story getter. But the interesting thing is, and I did think the same thing, £100 million, I think it depends how they spend that money.
Yeah,
because
it does,
if you think about Sunderland spent more, around about £150 million in the transfer window just gone. And this is what I mean about how the market has really moved on, because the expenditure that is available, even to the mid-ranking clubs, has gone right up. Now, if you're talking about that money in terms of wages, as you've been quite rightly saying, that's a game changer. If you're going to look at that wage bill and say, we're going to take on the Liverpools and the Chelseas and whatever else.
Well, Arsenal pay Eza more than Tottenham are going to. That's fact. 100%. I don't think that's a level playing field. I know he's an Arsenal boy anyway, so that gave him the...
Yes.
But if he'd have gone, Arsenal could have paid him more because they've got bigger wage structure. They pay more money.
Yeah.
Liverpool pay big money. Chelsea, not so much. They've lowered it, but they're still paying decent.
It wasn't that long ago that Daniel was on the overlap with Gary Neville, and he was having a chat with him about everything at Tottenham. And he said at one point, when I'm not here, I'm sure I'll get the credit. Do you think he'll get the credit?
He's getting it now. Listen, I was literally talking to some pals of mine this afternoon.
Giving him credit now.
And they will not hear a bad thing said about it. And I was like, hang on a minute. And I sent my mate some screenshots of conversations we'd had on WhatsApp previously. I said, is this you?
Yes. Yeah.
But he was like, yeah, but. And I think what it is, there's an uncertainty now, because we hear it all the time here on the station.
The devil, you know.
Exactly. Oh, sack the board, get rid of the chairman. It's this person out, that person out. And then when they go, you don't know who's going to take over.
Well, he was 90 minutes away from being the champions of Europe.
Yeah.
Yes.
You think how the narrative would have changed? I know they didn't spend after they lost, and that was a big thing for Tottenham fans after that Champions. They wanted to kick on under Poch. But if they'd have won that game somehow, you never know. Yeah, the journey could be so different. But they are in a great place. Training ground's incredible. Squad's looking...
Well, he's left them in a great place.
Yeah.
With all the facilities and everything like that. And even to an extent of what we're now seeing this Tottenham team, hopefully under Thomas Frank, who I still have a soft spot for, obviously. But also, I suppose the one thing you can also say about him is when they took over ENIC and everything in early 2000s, Tottenham weren't at the level they're at now. They weren't competing for Europe. Whereas now they've had a couple of
less
years.
Places then, but yeah, I know what you mean.
No, but they weren't up in the top.
No, they weren't.
The big six as such. I mean, they weren't really in contention. You were more likely to be talking about Newcastle regularly or Everton or Aston Villa, and we're not really so much Tottenham. So you can put a lot of credit down to the board and everything that has got Tottenham to this position. It's just perhaps, as you say, from that 2019 Champions League final, there was a bit of a stagnation and no progression.
Well, every time they've had big players over the years, whether it's Carrick, Berbatov, Bale, Modric, Kane latterly, all of those players have got to a point where they've said, if I'm going to win silverware, particularly on a regular basis, I've got to go elsewhere. I think it was a year after Berbatov won the League Cup with Spurs that he moved to Manchester United because he saw the chance of winning silverware on a more regular basis.
Well, even Keano left, and Robbie was like God there. You know, he was unbelievable. What a player he was for Tottenham. And even he decided to jump when he went to Liverpool, hoping to win trophy.
And the story you told is actually significant because you chose not to come because there was... You said, didn't you, instability? That was the perception of Tottenham.
Well, they were signing, when I turned them down, they were signing all these players. And I was like saying to the man, where's he going to play? Because where am I going to play then? You've just signed him and him. And he was like, just couldn't hardly speak the language. I was like, what am I doing?
But that's significant because I think when you're asking me a question, I'm surmising, but he's been in that situation that a player would be in when Tottenham present a proposal to you and saying, if I go there, how am I going to fit with this and what's going to happen? And is he going to be off at Manchester United or Chelsea next summer, or that player going to be going as well?
I think the only thing that's changed a bit with that, to be fair, is the game has become so much. I mean, it was a squad game when I was playing to a degree, but the big games you kind of knew who was going to play. Now you've got this 5 subs, this rotation all the time. You've got game after game after, you know, it's players now, I don't think, are obsessed with going, you're going to be my first choice. They kind of trust themselves and go, I'll show him.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's changed a little.
The other thing as well, of course, is that if you look at the calibre of player they've been bringing in this summer, Kudus is an outstanding signing. I don't care what anybody says, he is going to be incredible for them.
João Palhinha,
is exactly. I mean, I don't know how they managed to get him, you know, because he is going to be brilliant for them. They were unlucky with James Maddison. But, you know, I just think the business that they've done, Xavi Simons, he's going to be outstanding for them. And you can see with the expenditure there, they mean business. I think there'll be serious players in the coming season or so.
Okay, well, it's a wait and see, certainly. Belarus against Scotland in a World Cup qualifier has just got underway, so we'll keep you updated on that one with our reporter Paul Mitchell. But next, we're going to look back on England's 2-0 win over Andorra at the weekend. Good evening. This is talkSPORT. This is Kickoff. In particular, we've got Darren Lewis, Danny Murphy, and me, Natalie Sawyer. We are with you until 10, and we're keeping across Scotland, who are in World Cup qualifying action, facing Belarus. We'll keep you updated on that one. It is just underway, a few minutes old, that one as well. We're going to actually start, though, by reviewing what happened at the weekend in England's 2-0 win over Andorra. And by the way, we will hear from Harry Kane and Thomas Tukul, who have been speaking this evening ahead of their next qualifier, which is in Serbia tomorrow night, live on talkSPORT. But let's look back to that Andorra game, shall we, where essentially job done. Another 3 points on the board. It's so far so good when it comes to the qualifying situation. England top in the group with 4 wins out of 4, no goals conceded. Looks good, but Darren, you're making a face. I don't think you were happy at all.
It's not being happy. It's just that it's the national team. I wrote a tweet during the match, which I think holds true now, which is that regardless of the vintage, regardless of the result, England games against so-called minnows are the same game on a loop. and when there's lots of expectation and lots of hype, listen, why should we not hype them up? We have some of the best young talent in the world, and not just in our first team, but in our second team. If you ask any 10 people, they'll give you 10 different teams, because we have that quality that we didn't have in the 90s, in the early 2000s. We did have the golden generation, of course, but now we really do have some depth. There's been some fantastic work being put in by people at clubs who don't get the credit they deserve to give us a squad we now have. So when I see Spain beat Turkey, a very capable side, 6-0, that tells you what we're not doing. And when the national team is on at peak time, for people who have a passing interest in the game, in the team, in the progress of our national team, and to enjoy, they want to be impressed, particularly if you're playing Andorra. They want to see some one-touch passing. They want to see players expressing themselves. We've been having this conversation for 20 years. We've been really poor, I have to say. And I heard somebody saying, "Oh well, England fans are never happy. It's job done." That's if you're a purist, but the national team is not necessarily one for the purists. The national team is for everybody to enjoy and everyone to be exhilarated by, and everyone to be left feeling optimistic about. And that's the important thing. The national team has to send a message to everyone. This is where we are. This is what we're doing. And I don't think that it's fair to the people who pay to watch England, follow England home and away, to simply say they're grumbling if they have an expectation that they should produce the kind of performance that Spain are able to produce against a higher caliber team, when you consider England and Spain were in the European Championship final together.
I think I hear where you come from. The difficulty comparing with Spain and Turkey is there's no way Turkey sat in. Turkey would have had a
probably
go.
Not. No.
Turkey got some high-class players, and they probably thought, you know what, we'll have a go. And as soon as they opened up, the Spanish,
Yeah, but I've seen you play, right, in Liverpool sides and in Fulham sides, and teams have sat in and you've found a way past them. You had that invention, had that ability to take a chance, make a move, produce something that actually energises the rest of the side.
So I think there's when we watch these games, and it does feel like they're on a loop, you're right. There's a couple of things. I think in terms of risk-taking, there's a lot of players. The team keeps changing. You win a new manager, for example, but the team changes a lot with England because of the amount of players we've got competing, injuries, pull-outs, etc., etc. So not many of them take a lot of risks. I thought Elliot Anderson kept trying to find balls through the thing and risk losing the ball. Centre-halves didn't take many risks, Gay and Dan Burn. I think too many of them play safe in games like that.
Right.
Now, that's partly as well to do with what they've got coming up, what they've just had, they're playing, they've got European coming up, they've got Premier League coming up. So when you're cruising in a game, 1-0, 2-0, and there's no threat, you do drop your intensity. It takes really strong group mentality. You know, even if 2 or 3 of them are at it, you need everybody to continually be at it and go, come on, let's go for the kill. That didn't happen, and it rarely happens. The good side of it, I remember Roy Hodgson's numbers in the qualifiers in the 2 tournaments he did. I mean, unbelievable. They just blitzed everyone. And battered a lot of the minnows, actually, if you recall, and then failed miserably in the tournament. So it's...
But then how many years ago was that? That
yeah,
was
true.
You're talking about a decade ago.
Yeah, fair enough. But the other thing I'd say is, when we look at styles, we've become, not just the England team, a lot of Premier League teams, very predictable in what they're doing. So years ago, if I was coming up against a team like that, lots of the teams I played for, when you go and play a lower league team, or you have to mix it up. So, and we don't see that. And when I say mix it up, so simple things like, okay, we're going to go 2 up top. right? And we're gonna go two big uns. So let's say Tony and Ivan. I know he's not in the squad, or even Watkins. Watkins and Kane are up there, and we're gonna go into them early. Now they might not win all the headers, but when they head it on the edge of their 18-yard box down, we're just gonna boom. So the right back and the left back aren't looking to play little through the lines. They're just hitting for 10 minutes. They're hitting diagonals. And every time the ball goes up as a diagonal, everyone goes for the knockdowns. And you're getting shots on the edge of the box. You're winning it off someone trying to bring it down at 25 yards out. You know, or, I don't know, it could be long throw-ins. It could be swapping the wingers. Whatever it is, get a lefty on the left and a right on the right against a really packed defence rather than the internal one. So you can do different things, but I just don't see it. So I'd be more comfortable. Forget looking for Tuchel's style. He likes to play a 4-2-3-1, but when you play a pub team one week and a brilliant team the next, you're not going to see a cohesion in style.
See, do you know what? That was more entertaining than the game.
Yeah. So just to have my final say on it, the one thing I think a lot of people who played want to see is not this identity where we play the same all the time and it's possession, blah blah blah, because that's an identity. What I want to see
on all that.
What I want to go is put two up. Right, and we're going to bang it long for 20 minutes, and we're going to just win knockdowns. And then we'll see if they open up and they change. And if you win a few knockdowns on the edge of the box, you're one pass, one shot, and
But even that's not necessarily identity, but it's dynamism.
We have to come to this. We'll carry on this conversation after the break because we're nearing the hour. But we've got to keep up to date as well what's happening with Scotland. So let's check in with Paul Mitchell.
It's Belarus 0, Scotland 0. Scotland with plenty of possession, some 87% so far, but it's Belarus with the only shot not even on target. Now the goalkeeper particularly troubled. Scotland making all the early running. Ben Ganondok, the Middlesbrough players look very lively indeed. Scotland under a little bit of pressure here, but the ball goes out of play on that far side. It's not been great from Scotland, but they've had plenty of the ball, but yet to test the goalkeeper. It's Belarus 0, Scotland 0.
Paul, thank you. More from Paul then throughout the match. You're listening into Kickoff on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes, 18 and over, gambleaware.org. Next, we'll continue to look back on that victory for England over Andorra and discuss some interesting comments as well from our very own Stuart Pearce on Jude Bellingham.
knows there are 20 managers in the Premier League, yeah? Well, actually, no. Around 3/4 of them are not managers. The terms manager and head coach are often used interchangeably to describe Premier League bosses, but they're actually two different jobs. So let's explain how and why. For years, fans referred to Mikel Arteta as Arsenal's manager, but I'm afraid technically...
I don't think so, no.
From his first day on the job, he was the Gunners' head coach. Let's pick a random moment in time, February 2025. Only 6 Premier League bosses actually held the official title of manager rather than head coach. Man City's Pep Guardiola, David Moyes of Everton, Ipswich boss Kieran McKenna, Southampton's Ivan Juric, Oliver Glasner at Crystal Palace and Leicester's Ruud van Nistelrooy were the only actual managers of their respective teams. Everyone else? That's right, head coach, including Ruben Amorim at Man United. He took over from Erik ten Hag, a man who had held the title of manager. Might come as a surprise that Amorim's appointment marked the first time ever that Man United had a head coach instead of a manager. But to understand why they made that decision, you also have to get what the difference is between a head coach and a manager. A manager's got a huge range of responsibilities. They're not just in charge of training and player lineups, they're also heavily involved in player sales and transfers. Critical stuff. But a head coach's role is far more focused on team training and performance on the pitch. So whereas Ten Hag was highly involved with decisions around transfers during his tenure, the intention was that Amorim wouldn't be, at least not on the same level. And as the sporting structure at Man United changed under Sir Jim Ratcliffe, people like Sir Dave Brailsford took charge of transfers instead. How all those roles play out in practice may be slightly different at different clubs though. On the other hand, the contracts of actual managers like Pep or Moyes had no limits on their job role and their involvement with transfers and contracts. But those guys are actually in the minority now, and it's a change that's happened pretty quickly. In 2019, there were only 6 head coaches in the Premier League, but by 2025 there were 14. A clear indication that more and more clubs are moving towards a model where the guy in charge is actually only really in charge on the pitch. And the way things are going, it might not be long before all 20 clubs have got head coaches, and the job position of football manager in the top flight is no more.
A very good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining us here on talkSPORT. This is Kickoff, and I am Natalie Sawyer. And alongside me this Monday evening, it is Darren Lewis and Danny Murphy as well. A real pleasure to have you alongside us. And if you're listening in on radio, you can actually now watch us on the telly if you fancy it. If you fancy checking in on our new studio, you can watch us from your Samsung and LG TVs to Fire TV, Chromecast and Apple TV. talkSPORT. We are everywhere, basically, live on your screen as well as on your speakers. So join us if you so wish by watching us. I think we're on YouTube as well, so we're everywhere basically, you can't avoid us. We've been talking about England and what's happening with them ahead of this second qualifier of this international break, where they're going to be heading to Serbia. In fact, they are in Serbia, in Belgrade, where Harry Kane and Thomas Tuchel, by the way, have both been speaking ahead of this Serbia qualifier. Tomorrow night, live on talkSPORT, we'll bring you the best bits of that in a moment. But we were talking about England and Andorra and that 2-0 win. And something I wanted to pick up on is something you mentioned, Danny, about the versatility of teams, perhaps. There's so much talk about identity. And Darren, you said it a couple of times, you know, it might take a while for Thomas Tuchel to get across what he wants. And as you rightly say, he's only had a few international breaks to work with this team. But why is identity such an important factor when we talk about teams? Because if I want to watch a team, I want to see a team play in any which way as possible to get a result, whether that is going 2 up top, like you say, which is unconventional in these present days, or maybe it is sometimes, you know what, we're going to have to just defend for our lives for a bit.
An identity generally causes it for especially for the better teams, gives you more consistency because the players get so used to what you're doing. So at elite level, where coaches are really good and players are able to take messages on. So, for example, Roy at Fulham, his identity was so clear and so easy to follow. And we started having, the lads enjoyed it and we didn't really want to deviate from it. So if Roy had turned around to us on some occasion and gone, listen, we're playing Brentford at home today, we're going to press them. We go, hold on, we've been working 6-7 months playing this way. They'd have been confused, especially if you'd lost.
Yes.
Now, I think variation is needed more. Thomas Frank's Brentford was a great example. You've watched a lot of Brentford. I've watched a lot of Brentford under Thomas Frank. Now, you could argue his identity or their identity is always high energy, fit side, good legs, brave.
Yes, yeah, I suppose.
But on occasion, against good teams, he knew how to sit in and block and not go anywhere. And that's good management because Brentford can't be the same all the time. They're not good enough to be the same all the time.
So is sticking to one identity.
Give him an identity.
But I think what you're about to say, just to counter what you're about to say, because I think I can guess what you're about to say.
Ooh, psychic over there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I built this up way too much.
Go on, yeah, you have. You have.
Oh, I can't wait to go.
But I'll just make the point now.
Go on.
I think lots of different things can be true. I think that you can have an identity and you can want an identity. And when you have that, you have a sense of satisfaction around the way that your team plays, whether you're the pragmatists of Germany, whether you're fluid like the French, whether you're possession-based like the Spanish. And we have a kind of pragmatism about us that Danny was describing a little bit earlier. And it kind of shows that you are developing as a nation. And I think the reason why Tukul is in his job is because lots of people felt that we did get so much right, but we didn't have a closer, someone to get over the line. But to get there, I still think that given the calibre of players that we have, it's not unfair for people who have an emotional, who have a financial investment in the team to say, OK, how are we progressing with our style of play? Right. What is it that we're doing? And I don't think, because I was just hearing our very capable newsreader talking about Harry Kane hitting back. I don't think it's a them and us. I don't think it's... Being able to say, I'd like the team to play better is not a criticism. It's not hitting out at, or it's not attacking Harry or any other individual. It's just saying, we've been watching football for years. We're having the same conversation now that we had 5 years ago.
I think we can overthink. The big thing under Southgate was a defensive coach. England were a defensive team. They didn't go after teams and high press like a Klopp side, for example. You didn't see that. It wasn't chaotic. Southgate was organised, cautious, and in times in-game management was questioned. Tukul has consistently, since he's been in the job, he's only been in it 5 minutes, has talked about a more intense high press, right? Now, we'll see if he does it in a big game against a good side, or even a lesser side in the tournament football, because one of the things that, even though England got to the final last Euros, it did feel like even against the so-called lesser teams, we were kind of cautious and not going after them. Then there was the debate, is it because Kane can't press? Have we not got in? Whatever. The reality is he's telling us, and this will be the indicator of change. When we play teams in tournaments, are we going to go high risk and high press and say, we're better than you and we're coming after you? I think he will. And that will be when we'll go, right, there's where he's different.
And do you know, Danny's bang on. I think what part of this, it kind of reminds me of...
Couldn't press against Andorra, by the way. They never had the ball.
No, they never had the ball. It was a completely different kind of game. But against a team that's going to actually open up and come out and play, it's going to be very different. But I was remembering Nuno at Nottingham Forest basically talking about the relationship between himself and the owner not being great, and then wondering why lots of people were asking, how's your relationship with your owner and what's going to happen with your future? It was a story he'd created. Well, Tukul has talked about unlocking the potential of this team, getting them to play more free-flowing football, making sure that people who are looking for a more expressive England will get a more expressive England. And yet we're playing Andorra and we can't break them down. And that's not a criticism of the players. It is the fact that what you're looking for from any England manager is signs of progress. Where are we? How are we getting on? How can we break down teams that set up as Andorra did against us? That's what we want to see.
As I was saying, Harry Kane and Thomas Tuchel have been holding their press conferences ahead of this game in Serbia tomorrow night. And Adrian Darren was in that press conference, or in those press conferences. He joins us now to discuss what was said. Adrian, good evening. How are you?
Yeah, all good. It's very warm here in Belgrade. And yes, I've just been listening to Harry Kane and the England manager Thomas Tuchel talk to the media at the stadium. So yeah, we're all set for tomorrow night's qualifier.
So give us the sort of best bits.
Well, the best bits were the fact that they were talking about the criticism that followed the Andorra game at the weekend. Harry Kane basically said, yep, you know, this is England. We are going to be scrutinised. There is going to be criticism. We accept that. He also said something really interesting, which is that some people take it for granted that England will qualify, but there is work that needs to be done. There's detail that we need to know, and they have to get through the qualifying. So I think it was a little bit of a, maybe not necessarily a dig, but just pointing out, yeah, it has to be done. The job has to be done. So he was just making that clear to everybody who thinks it is a given. Thomas Tuchel himself said that he loves the job, by the way. He stressed that. But he said that, yes, it does come with scrutiny, but that's the nature of the job. And he thinks it's still a dream and a privilege to be England manager.
OK, well, let's just hear a little bit from Captain Harry Kane then, who was speaking, as you say, and about that criticism too.
I've been long enough now an England player that you know, sometimes you're going to win football matches and there's still going to be a big conversation about how we won or what we should have done or who should have played. And that's part and parcel of it. I think we have so many great players in the England team. We have so many great players who are not with the England team. And, of course, there's always going to be opinions. I think what's important is that, you know, amongst the group, amongst us, we know what we're trying to do. We know how difficult some of these games are. We know how frustrating some of these teams can be to play. So ultimately it's about qualifying. We want to be in America next summer. Sometimes it's taken for granted a little bit. We're just expected to be there, but we know the work we put in. We know the detail in every meeting, in every training session that gets us to where we are. And yeah, that's all we're focused on. We can't control the noise on the outside. That's always going to be there. That's part and parcel of getting to this level, and you just have to deal with it.
I mean, interesting how he says they can't control the noise. I suppose to a degree you can if you put in the performances that everyone wants at the end of the day, Adrian.
Yeah, I get that. And actually, Thomas Tuchel kind of alluded to that afterwards, Natalie, saying, and I'll give you the quote from Thomas Tuchel, when you're playing against a low block, he said, we're getting better at it. If we are aggressive and front-footed, we will hopefully win the ball, have more of the ball and dominate matches. He did point out every game is different. It's not always easy to show the identity that they want to show. So he was hoping that tomorrow night here in Belgrade they'd be able to do that against Serbia, which he sees as a slightly different game. But he just pointed out that he's happy with the progress of the players. And yeah, and my philosophy on Saturday was that, you know, it's a qualifier that needed to be won. They won it. It wasn't much fun, but it wasn't much fun because Andorra were not trying to win the game. Even at 1-0 down, they weren't trying to get back on level terms. They were just there to avoid a heavy beating. That's the nature of progress for them in their evolution as a national team. So to not be beaten 5-0 and only be beaten 2-0 is good from their point of view. But England, I think everybody agrees. And even Thomas Tuchel, who was quite critical of Rashford and Madueke and Ibrahim Eze at the weekend. He was quite critical openly of those three players. Then I think that, you know, he knows that there's improvements that need to be made.
And Adrian, you've been in the chair here. You've seen us arguing amongst ourselves. You've argued with us as well, so you'll probably argue with this too. But I don't quite buy the idea that we can't take for granted that we can't win a group that's got Serbia, Albania, Latvia and Andorra in it. You know, we have the best collection of England players for quite some time. But the other thing is this, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, we are in the entertainment industry. I'm entertained by you guys. I drive home, I listen to you guys. We can't get through 3 hours just doing the job. We've got to entertain. If you are on primetime national television, there is an expectation that you are going to entertain the nation. And that's not, for me,
they don't think that way, though.
And that's fair enough.
They don't.
But if Tukul is telling us that he's going to do that, then why would he be surprised when people say, well, where is this football that you were promising?
That's fair.
I think that's the key, what you've just said there. But I'll go back to taking it for granted that England should qualify. I think what Harry Kane meant was there is work that needs to be done. There is detail that we need to know about the opposition if we are to qualify. I think everybody knows, Thomas Tuchel, Harry Kane, they all know that it will be a failure if England didn't qualify for the World Cup. But people shouldn't just say, oh, they're going to do that. there has to be work that's done. You can't come here to Serbia and just expect to stick out 11 players on the pitch, and just because they're all in the Premier League or all at top clubs around Europe, expect them to win the game. There's got to be some detail in there. How do you play out of possession? How do you play in possession? What do you do to nullify their threats? What do you do to get the best out of some of your threats? There has to be some work. That's what he's saying. And in terms of entertainment, what I'll say is this. If England win the World Cup next summer but nobody's entertained, are you going to be bothered? Are you going to be going on talkSPORT and saying, actually, it wasn't really a World Cup win because we weren't entertained?
No. You will. You will, Adrian. I've listened to you many times.
I want to win the World Cup. You know me as an England fan.
But I've heard you talk about the lack of entertainment from England.
Hey, just a quick one. On this game, it's the first game, I think, against half-decent opposition, which has got importance.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm looking for, I don't know, maybe tell me the one thing you want to see is how we are when they've got the ball, when they play out, when they get the ball at the back. How intense is our press? How risky? How high is the back line? You know, because we were just talking about the fact that Gareth's teams didn't do that. Are you expecting to see a really high, intense press?
Yeah, I'd like to. I mean, that raises questions about Harry Kane, so I'm fascinated. You're right, I'm fascinated by that aspect of it. One of the criticisms of Noni Madueke was the fact that he was falling asleep a little bit when he was meant to be tracking back. So if he plays again, I'm interested to see how he responds to that criticism. The bigger thing that I'm interested in is getting those attacking players working, though. And what I mean by that is...
on the ball.
We have a number 10 in Eze, who... I love Eze. He's fantastic. But he wasn't great against Andorra. Now, was it because it was all clogged up in the middle with a low block, which was what Thomas Tukul was alluding to in the press conference just now? Was that the reason? Or will we get Morgan Gibbs-White tomorrow night here in Belgrade, and all of a sudden he'll rip it up? And he's got that hard work to track back as well. I'm a big fan of his. I think he should have had more England minutes by now. The players out wide, will there be a decent final ball, which again was a criticism from Saturday? They probably should, with the openings and situations they created, probably should have scored 5 or 6 goals, and they missed a few chances as well, England.
They did.
But they didn't score them. So now they've got to score those goals. I'm more interested in our brilliant attacking players, entertaining players if you like, and how they perform, to be honest.
Okay.
All right. Well, we look forward to hearing you tomorrow, Adrian. Thank you. That's Adrian.
Thank you very much. I'm just about to avoid these mosquitoes.
Oh dear. Who would have thunk it, eh? Mosquitoes in Belgrade. There we go. We'll be bringing that match, of course, live here on talkSPORT. By the way, very quickly before we get to Paul Mitchell, talking about not winning the World Cup in a way that you would want your side to win a World Cup. Brazil 1999. No, I was going to say, because the Brazil team who won it in 94, that's the only team of all the teams that have won the World Cup are not lauded because they didn't play the Brazil way.
Yeah.
So it is funny. It can happen that, you might win a World Cup.
Gets angry every time, but he would get angry and you'd mention it because you're like, I won it. And then, but you didn't win it, like Socrates and AD.
Exactly.
And all those players that
exactly. So it can happen that there's criticism despite winning the biggest trophy in world football, certainly. Right, let's check in with Paul Mitchell, who's watching Belarus against Scotland.
When Scotland win the World Cup, they will, of course, do it with style, but they would need to get a few goals here, first of all, to help the old qualifying. They've had plenty of play, plenty of possession. Best chance coming after 29 minutes. Nice move from Gannon Doak on the left-hand side. Quick switch of play to Max Christie. Hammered it across. McTominay met it, but he said he shot wide. He was under pressure. McTominay went tumbling in the box 3 minutes later. The referee not interested at all. It's worth noting Greece 0, Denmark 1 in the other game in this group. But here in Belarus against Scotland, it's 0-0.
All right, more from Paul throughout. OK, you're listening into Kickoff on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over. Gambleaware.org. More England discussion to come, and we'll bring you that exclusive interview with Thomas Tuchel and more from Harry Kane too. This is Kickoff on talkSPORT this Monday evening, and you're in the company of Darren Lewis, Danny Murphy and me, Natalie Sawyer. We're with you until 10 o'clock this evening. We're continuing to discuss the England situation, and it's time now for us to look at the latest football action with Ladbrokes.
The big preview on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
I'll tell you what, the debate we're having off air is pretty much as good as what we're having on it. But we are centering on the importance of if you're going to get a win, you'll sometimes want to see a great performance go with it. But Danny, you were interesting saying from a player's perspective, that's not key necessarily, is it?
Well, I mean, in an ideal world, you want to play well and win and entertain.
Yes.
If you get the job done, you come off healthy, ready for the next one,
and
you haven't have to exert yourself to a real push yourself into the red zone and all that, you feel like win-win. Because they're not actually, the goal difference ain't going to be a factor.
No. Is there also a slight debate when we're talking about the minnows, let's say, and Andorra being one of those, that actually the gap that there used to be between the top nations and the lesser ones, let's say, has actually narrowed a little bit? I look at you, Darren. I don't know why, but I think I should just talk positively with Danny.
It has.
It feels like it has.
Do you know what? I feel really grumpy tonight, but I'm not trying to be deliberately grumpy. I just think I just think that, and it has been insightful to listen to Danny and even the boys outside, because I know they think the same as Danny as well. The player perspective is really instructive for me, because as you rightly said, players just want to get the job done, and so they see any kind of interpretation as that job as not being particularly entertaining, as criticism, as getting stuck into, and it's not. That's
not to say Eza, Madueke won't be disappointed.
No, indeed.
Because they wanted to have more of an impact and do more. They'll be aware of that.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they can only do so much if they're not getting the ball enough, or there's two players on them every time they get the ball. There's only so much they can do.
See, it's interesting, because while I was talking, while Adrian was talking, I was thinking to myself, is it on the players or is it on the manager? Because the manager, as I said earlier, is the manager who's been saying, I'm going to unlock the potential of this team, and we haven't seen it yet. So I don't necessarily blame the players for not being overwhelmed with excitement by the performance. But I can't, if I sat here and said to you, we didn't beat Andorra because X or Y wasn't playing, or because they sat in a low block, or because they did this and that and went into all of the kind of thing, that the passing view, when you put England on terrestrial TV, you're looking for your passing viewer, the people who are not purists, if you like, who don't.
Do you think we would have been saying, because we had some really good chances and a couple of really bad misses, so if it was 4-0, would it have been the same fallout? Because parts of the game were still boring, even if we'd put those chances.
It depends, because I watched, for example, Germany, Northern Ireland, and the scoreline 3-1 looks emphatic. But for most of that game, Germany were poor. And they've been criticised for that performance. Why? Because they're a superpower, and you expect more from a superpower. England are a superpower. We've been to semi-finals and finals. There was a time when we would have laughed. In fact, I remember when the FA blueprint was that we would be in semi-finals and finals by Euro 2020. People said, you must be joking. But now we have that vintage. Now we have those players. And now we have a manager who is saying, yes, you got to finals and didn't get over the line. I'll get you there. And I'll get you there unlocking the potential of this team. And we haven't seen him do that.
Well, look, ahead of this game tomorrow night, our England correspondent, Faye Carruthers, has been speaking exclusively to Thomas Tukul.
Thomas, biggest game of the group, an away game against Serbia. How are you feeling ahead of tomorrow night?
We're excited. It's a very traditional stadium and very emotional crowd for sure. And Serbian team is full of quality, and I think we meet the team tomorrow that wants to beat us. So the approach will be a bit different than in the other games. But I am convinced that this occasion will bring out the very best in us, and we are prepared to steal all 3 points.
When you say the approach will be different, what do you mean?
Serbia will be, the approach of Serbia will be different. I think they will try to beat us. I think Andorra tried not to lose too high, which is fair enough. But I think tomorrow we face a more aggressive, a more straightforward, a more attacking opponent, which is always a risk and a matter of risk and reward. So we will find more spaces than in our 3 home matches, I guess. But I don't know it, so we need to prepare for everything and see how this match plays out.
Do you think if that's the case that we actually might see more of the England and the identity that you've been talking about, because it's very difficult to show that perhaps against the teams that defend so deeply?
I think we showed a lot, but we showed a lot of things where you don't get praise from. I think that the effort and the intensive runs and how we defended after ball losses against Andorra, how we did not let them escape their half. There's a lot of invisible work in there that the players do, but you don't get praise for it. It's a nature. Everyone expects you to win. It comes with a job and it comes with a role. It comes with a country. That is normal. People expect England to win. We expect us to win. So we're on the same page. And as long as the players work like they work in camp now, and as long as they are together like they are together, I'm not worried, because it's easy to trust these guys. They had an excellent 8-9 days, and tomorrow we will take the next steps. I'm very sure of that.
Is there a sense of frustration with that perhaps the team isn't getting some of the credit that you think they deserve?
No, absolutely no frustration, because why would we? That's just reality. We have high demands, our fans have high demands, and of course they expect always the very best. Reality is that I see what I see and I feel what I feel when I'm together with this group. This camp now, first camp in a World Cup season, was an excellent camp. And like I said, I think the occasion tomorrow will bring out the very best. I think it's in us. I think it's the exactly right moment for a test like this. And let's see if I'm right.
You operated in the Premier League, so you know what the media can be like, and you know the headlines that get generated. Do you pay much attention to them? Do they affect you in any way at all? And do you think sometimes that maybe the criticism is unfair?
No, the criticism is the criticism, and the job comes with scrutiny, and we're like in public, and it just comes with it. Don't take it personal, but I don't pay any attention to it. It's not if we win, if we have the best game or not such a good game. It just makes no sense, because I'm in the middle of the process. I have my own observations. I have my own feedback with my staff and the players. So why? I trained myself many years ago to not pay attention, and I'm still on it.
How much have you spoken to the players about the atmosphere that they're going to experience tomorrow, particularly some of the younger players that may not have experienced an atmosphere like this?
Yeah, but they play Premier League. Listen, and if you play in Leeds or in Sunderland, or you play in Manchester, in Arsenal, wherever, you name it, there's tough places to play against. And it will be a tough place here to steal all 3 points, but the distance to the fans is quite far, so they're not totally on you. And I think no matter how old our players are, they play in Champions League and in Premier League, and they're used to these kind of crowds.
We spoke after the Andorra game about Elliot Anderson and how impressive he was. Has he continued to impress you in training? Is there a likelihood we might see him tomorrow night?
Well, it was only 2 days, so it was hard to unimpress, if I can say that. And he had 1 day of recovery, and today was just a little session, which was not too much. So he kept his status. We're still very happy with him, and he's in the mix for tomorrow.
In the mix, but you're not going to tell me if he's starting?
No, I'm not going to tell you, because I don't want to give my lineup away.
Fair enough. What we should say is Mark Gahey is fit. He has confirmed that in his general press conference too. We'll react to that more after the break, but that was all thanks to Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over, gambleaware.org.
The big preview on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
It's half-time in the Scotland game, where there's also been a goal. Paul Mitchell.
Delighted to say it's Belarus 0, Scotland 1. The goal coming after 43 minutes for Shea Adams, but not after Scotland survived a scare some 3 minutes before. Maximon, the captain, was through in on goal, was forced wide onto the angle, still got his shot away, saved by Angus Gunn. 2 minutes later, Scotland's Billy Gilmore had a shot pushed onto the post, but it delayed the goal by only 60 seconds. Christie to McGinn. McGinn floated the ball towards the back post. McTominay's header back across the 6-yard box was met by the sliding Shea Adams to turn the ball into the back of net. Good news for Scotland. They lead in Hungary against Belarus at half-time by 1-0.
Paul, thank you. And more throughout that match from Paul. OK, next we're going to react then to what the England boss Thomas Tuchel just said to our England correspondent Faye Carruthers. And we're also going to be hearing from the Three Lions captain Harry Kane. Kickoff on talkSPORT, and it is Danny Murphy, Darren Lewis and me, Natalie Sawyer, taking you through until 10 this evening. We just
here. Honestly, we're gabbling away through the breaks. You know, they catch us coming back from the breaks.
Professional, really. We're getting distracted by other things. But anyway, no, it's lovely to be here, and hopefully we'll make a good sort of, show of it when we're all together on a Monday night, which will be fun. But we've just been hearing there from Thomas Tukul then talking ahead of England's latest qualifier, this time in Serbia. Tomorrow night, it'll be live on talkSPORT for you as well. We are going to be hearing from the England captain, Harry Kane, shortly too. But let's quickly look back on what we just heard there from Thomas Tukul. The approach will be different, he says, from both sides. He sort of expects. He thinks the occasion will bring out the best from England, but also, and this is key, he's expecting Serbia to have a very different approach to this game, unlike perhaps what we saw against Andorra, Darren.
Well, Dan was saying it, wasn't he? They're going to come out and play. Andorra sat back, but Serbia, well, first of all, they need the points. They need the points. They want to be able to be masters of their own group destiny. And at the moment, England have got a bit of daylight between themselves and Serbia. So Serbia
5 points,
have to win, and they've got to come out and play. They've got a couple of very decent forwards, Vlahovic, Luka Jovic. They've got Mitrovic as well. They've got some good creative talent in behind as well. So they will pose a test for England. And to my mind, it looks very much as though it's going to be kind of like a Premier League game. It's going to be very physical. It's going to be very attritional. I'm not bothered about the state of the pitch or anything like that, because at this, with the calibre of players that we've got, they can go out and equip themselves well. And with their club size, they'll have been to places that have been difficult in Europe, in the Europa League, in the Champions League. So I'm not worried about all of that. I think that in terms of the quality that we've got, is going to be a really entertaining game.
The other thing will be interesting as well, because I think although they might play out on occasion, depending who plays up top, they're all big lumps.
Yeah.
I think they'll go long and early as well, which is another problem we haven't seen. We don't have to deal with that very often.
No.
So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. So many intriguing things about a more equal game.
Do you think, you said we don't deal with that often, but do you think maybe in the FA Cup, where teams who like to get it down and play are up against teams in the Championship that are a bit more pragmatic, or do you think in the Championship, in League One, everyone wants to get it down and play, so it isn't as it used to be?
No, I think there's still a mix, but more teams now play than don't. So we don't see that kind of... The best example I've seen of it in a long, long time, and it was brilliant from Eddie Howe, not just in the League Cup final, in the league game the other day. I know Liverpool won later on, of course. But they just played percentages and used their physicality again, knowing that Liverpool don't like it. Even though Liverpool knew... Slot said he thought that's what they were going to do, and they still couldn't cope. Because that physicality is so unusual and difficult to play against when you've got people that are good at it.
Yeah.
So it'll just be interesting to see how Serbia play, how we cope, who does what when we've got the ball, which Aid was talking about in terms of who gets on it, who expresses themselves, who's brave. But without the ball, how do we cope? Because they'll cause some problems. But really, these type of games are really... I don't even care about high entertainment in terms of goals and chances. It's more the tactical element and how we cope with a team that's got high-quality players, because... defensively, we don't get tested very often.
No, and we will. I mean, Vlahovic has scored in each of his 2 games for Juventus so far this season. Jovic has scored, I think, 1 of the 3 games that he's played so far as well. These are guys who, had they moved to certainly Vlahovic, had he moved to a top Premier League club, would have said that's a good sign.
Yeah.
They will test our back line.
Okay, well, what we want to also be seeing is Harry Kane getting some goals in this one potentially too. He's had a little sit down with our England correspondent Faye Carruthers. This is his exclusive interview.
Harry, good to see you as always. How much are you looking forward to this game tomorrow night?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough game. Going to be the hardest game we've played in this group so far, for sure. And there's something about these away games with England. Going to be a hostile atmosphere, going to be a tough opponent. And we need to be ready. So it's an exciting challenge for us. It's a chance to take a big step in the right direction, and we need to go and show that on the pitch.
What do you remember about the game against Serbia in Gelsenkirchen last year?
Tough game. I thought for large spells we played really well. Second half we struggled a little bit. We struggled to press them, especially when their midfielders would drop in, and they took control of the game in that sense, and we found it really difficult. We had to find a way to win that night. We defended well, defended set pieces well. Hopefully tomorrow we can be a little bit more front foot, a little bit more aggressive, and try and win the ball back quicker and keep more possession and keep the game in in their half, but ultimately there's going to be times we have to defend. They've got good players, good strikers who attack the box well. So all parts of our game as a team need to be, right on it, and we hope we can do that.
And this stadium is, I think we can all expect a hostile atmosphere. You've played here before with Spurs, haven't you?
Yeah, I played here back in 2019, and it's one of the most hostile places I've played at club level for sure. And we actually had a really good night that night, so we managed to silence the crowd a little bit. But I think tomorrow will be another step up. I think Serbia-England is probably the biggest game they're going to have here, and they'll try and make it as difficult as they can for us. So we need to be ready for that. But I like these challenges. I think the team like playing in these sort of atmospheres. If you get through it, there's a sense of more togetherness, more just togetherness, I guess, that when you get through these challenges, that's what builds you for tournament football, and we hope we can have a special night tomorrow.
The togetherness part is really important, and I know that a group of you together have discussed what you'll do if there is any discriminatory language or chants or anything directed towards the players. Can you give us a little bit more insight into what you've talked about?
Yeah, it was just a team meeting, and just where we learn the protocols from UEFA and what the kind of rules are if something does happen, what the players should do if something happens. And as always, it's there. It has to be discussed because there's a possibility, but we don't like to focus on it too much. Ultimately, we're more focused on the game and what we can do on the pitch. If something does happen, we're prepared for that. But of course, it's ifs and buts. So we hope it doesn't. We don't expect it to, but we're prepared if it does.
I know it's ifs and buts, but I think it is important to let people know whether you've discussed walking off if a situation like that arises.
Well, yeah, that's part of the UEFA protocol. So, we'll decide that then and there. Obviously, the ref will have a big part to play in that as well. And I think as players, you can only do kind of what you're expected to do. It depends what happens tomorrow night. Anything's possible, so I'm not going to rule anything out. But ultimately, it's not the main focus that everyone's thinking about. But if something does happen, then we'll see.
Okay, well, let's hope ultimately we're talking about the football come the end of this game and nothing else. We will be able to listen into it live here on talkSPORT, of course, and you're tuning in to Kickoff on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over, gambleaware.org. And next, we'll be joined by Faye Carruthers, our England correspondent, who was putting the questions there to Harry Kane. Oh, we're fast approaching 9 o'clock. It's going quick here on Kickoff. Hey,
Normally not this quick.
Just shows we're having fun. Danny Murphy, Darren Lewis, me, Natalie Sawyer, with you until 10 tonight. And this is Kickoff on talkSPORT. Right, we've just heard from the England captain, Harry Kane, ahead of this Serbia qualifier in Belgrade tomorrow night, live on talkSPORT. And very pleased to say that our England correspondent, Faye Carruthers, was leading that interview, and she joins us now. Hi, Faye. How are you this evening?
I'm really well, thank you. What a little dream team this is, by the way, on Monday night, you three in the studio.
Oh,
you should hear the chats in between in the breaks, Faye. Honest to God.
Thank goodness the
I
mics
wish
are
I
off.
could. I really wish I could.
So, Faye, obviously we just heard you speak to Harry Kane. But before that, you were also chatting to Thomas Tuchel. Just give us a sense of how they both appear to be sort of feeling, if you like, ahead of this qualifier, especially off the back of that Andorra result where they've had a lot of criticism thrown at them.
I think they're relishing it, actually. You know, Thomas Tuchel previously had talked about having a point to prove, and it very much feels as if he wants to go out and show what this England side can do, and he thinks that they've got more of a chance of doing that against a Serbia side who play a much higher defensive line and will leave gaps for the England players to create things within. Harry Kane pretty much said exactly the same thing. What I found really interesting when I was speaking to Thomas Tuchel was how he said that this felt like exactly the right test at the right moment. So when you think about what he's building, this is the toughest team that they've faced. Obviously, if you take Senegal out of that equation, because they were very tough opponents, but it was a friendly. But the hostile atmosphere away from home against a team like Serbia, who England have struggled against previously, you know, it is a really big test, and I think he's looking forward to seeing how the players are going to handle it.
Faye, I think we were talking before. I don't know if you were probably not listening because you were doing it in the interviews, but I feel he's right in that it is a perfect test because you're up against a better team who'll come out a little bit more. For me, the thing I want to see, or I think I expect to see, which maybe not so much under Gareth, is this difference when we don't have the ball in terms of the risk, trying to win it back higher and take more risk, because he's talked about that a few times, hasn't he? So he must be planning on doing that, don't you think? Because he seems to. I've seen him say it in 2 or 3 interviews. I think one with yourself as well, before the last game, regarding the intensity and without the ball. I mean,
you're seeing it straight away, and you're seeing the selection of some of the players that are really good at doing that for their clubs as well. And you could see that intensity even against Andorra, the work that was being done off the ball, and how much pressure that they were putting the Andorra players when they very rarely actually had the ball. And whenever they they won it back really quickly. Elliot Anderson, in fact, you know, countless times did exactly that. And it has to be nowadays. It's the way to win games. And I think you're exactly right. But it takes a while to implement. If it's not something that all of the players are necessarily used to doing, not used to doing as, you know, an 11, if you like, then it does take a little bit of time. And he hasn't had the same players every camp to implement his strategy and what he wants to do and what he wants to see. So you almost lose a little bit of momentum every camp that there are new players coming into it because of the injuries. So, you know, again, it's September and we've got October and November camps still to come. I still maintain that this is a really vital period, these 3 camps back to back in close proximity to each other, in terms of trying to create this identity that they talk about. You know, Harry Kane mentioned it being front-footed, aggressive. You know, we haven't necessarily seen that in terms of goals scored, if you like, but I do feel as if we've seen, much better than the June camp, a tougher intensity, and I think we're going to see more of that again tomorrow night against Serbia.
Faye, where do you think the game is going to be won and lost?
Interesting. I think it's going to have to be England's intensity in the press. I think they're going to have to be sharp. I think they also have to be very quick defensively, and actually that's something that Thomas Tuchel highlighted, that, you know, was lacking at times against Andorra. Didn't necessarily do their defensive work, the attackers, as they should have done, and Andorra were in a couple of times, and we shouldn't really have had to have been in that situation. He talked about losing the ball 15 minutes after they scored the goal, which was an own goal, but it came from a brilliant Noni Madueke cross in the first place. But then they were sloppy for 15 minutes, and we've seen spells of that throughout all of the games under Thomas Tuchel. So they're going to have to be on point for 90 plus minutes, I would say. And you know the quality of these players, Darren. If we see the best of all of the players on the night, they will be the better team.
In that interview you did exclusively with Thomas, he didn't want to give too much away when it came to his team news and his team selection, but there was some good news with Mark Gahey. He's fit, isn't he?
Yeah, that is really good news. It felt his groin a little bit at half-time in the game against Andorra, played on for another 20 minutes or so, and they brought him off in the end, and Ezri Konsa came on. But Mark Gahey has become a vital part of that back line when you think of the injuries that we've had, and obviously John Stones having to leave the camp earlier on in the week as well, who would have probably started, whether that was alongside Mark or not, we don't know. I think maybe alongside Ezri Konsa, but it's been really difficult for John Stones to have Mark Gahey, and they had created quite a good partnership together, obviously with Harry Maguire now not being part of the setup for the foreseeable future, it seems. That partnership had been working really well, so it's a shame not to see that. And Mark Gahey is an excellent defender and vital to England's success going forward, I think.
Faye, last one from me. I've got a sneaky feeling, I don't know why, that he's going to play Gibbs-White ahead of Eza. What do you think?
I think possibly. I was really intrigued by the fact that he chose, my question didn't steer him down that route at all, and then he followed it up in the press conference. He was really keen to mention that Eza had been really impressive in training, but what he'd practiced in training and all of the creative moves that he'd made in training to find the solutions to break down that low block, he then didn't translate on the pitch and didn't necessarily have his best game. He was frustrated, said he could have had a couple of goals, and I'm sure the person most frustrated with that is going to be Eza himself, because he'll have wanted to impress. But I think you're right. I think Gibbs-White might get the nod.
All right, well, we'll find out. Brilliant as always, Faye. Thank you.
Thanks, Faye.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Take
Faye.
care. Enjoy the rest of the night.
So that's our England correspondent Faye Crothers out in Belgrade ahead of that qualifier against Serbia, which will be live on talkSPORT. So let's check in with the second half for Scotland in Belarus. Paul Mitchell.
57 minutes gone here. It's Belarus 0. Scotland won the goal after 43 minutes for Shea Adams. Scotland making the break before half-time. They could have made it 2 just 7 minutes into the second half. John McGinn with a lovely cross on the right-hand side. Scott McTominay all alone, 7 yards from goal in the middle. Couldn't get enough on his header straight at the goalkeeper. Scotland controlling the game. Belarus have made a couple of changes to try and make things a little bit livelier for them. 1 or 2 tackles started to fly in as well. But so far, so good for Scotland. 57 minutes gone. It's Belarus 0, Scotland 1.
Paul, thank you very much. And in the other group game, Denmark lead Greece by 1-0. A certain Mikkel Damsgaard scored that goal. OK, we plugged it earlier on. Next, we're going to be looking, we're going to hear from Stuart Pearce, his comments that he's had on Jude Bellingham in particular.
knows there are 20 managers in the Premier League, yeah? Well, actually, no. Around 3/4 of them are not managers. The terms manager and head coach are often used interchangeably to describe Premier League bosses, but they're actually two different jobs. So let's explain how and why. For years, fans referred to Mikel Arteta as Arsenal's manager, but I'm afraid technically...
I don't think so, no.
From his first day on the job, he was the Gunners' head coach. Let's pick a random moment in time, February 2025. Only 6 Premier League bosses actually held the official title of manager rather than head coach. Man City's Pep Guardiola, David Moyes of Everton, Ipswich boss Kieran McKenna, Southampton's Ivan Juric, Oliver Glasner at Crystal Palace and Leicester's Ruud van Nistelrooy were the only actual managers of their respective teams. Everyone else? That's right, head coach, including Ruben Amorim at Man United. He took over from Erik ten Hag, a man who had held the title of manager. Might come as a surprise that Amorim's appointment marked the first time ever that Man United had a head coach instead of a manager. But to understand why they made that decision, you also have to get what the difference is between a head coach and a manager. A manager's got a huge range of responsibilities. They're not just in charge of training and player lineups, they're also heavily involved in player sales and transfers. Critical stuff. But a head coach's role is far more focused on team training and performance on the pitch. So whereas Ten Hag was highly involved with decisions around transfers during his tenure, the intention was that Amorim wouldn't be, at least not on the same level. And as the sporting structure at Man United changed under Sir Jim Ratcliffe, people like Sir Dave Brailsford took charge of transfers instead. How all those roles play out in practice may be slightly different at different clubs though. On the other hand, the contracts of actual managers like Pep or Moyes had no limits on their job role and their involvement with transfers and contracts. But those guys are actually in the minority now, and it's a change that's happened pretty quickly. In 2019, there were only 6 head coaches in the Premier League, but by 2025 there were 14. A clear indication that more and more clubs are moving towards a model where the guy in charge is actually only really in charge on the pitch. And the way things are going, it might not be long before all 20 clubs have got head coaches, and the job position of football manager in the top flight is no more.
Good evening, this is Kickoff on talkSPORT. I'm Natalie Sawyer, and with me this Monday evening is Danny Murphy and Darren Lewis, and lots still to come in this final hour of the show. We are continuing to discuss the issues surrounding England, but before we get to that, just to let you know, not only are we available on your radios, you can also watch us if you fancy on your smart TVs. You just grab the app on Android TV and Google TV, and we're even on Prime Video. talkSPORT live on your screen as well as your speakers, and we're also on YouTube, so you can catch us wherever you are. But let's get back onto England, and actually in particular on a player who's not part of the latest England squad. That's Jude Bellingham, where... Interesting article actually came out over the weekend that Ollie Holt had written, a very big piece that he had written on Jude Bellingham, really surrounding more his family and their influences, one at club level as well as at international level with England in particular. Obviously, Jude's younger brother Job now is at Borussia Dortmund, where Jude played as well in Germany. And at one point, Job was subbed in a game, and Mark certainly didn't seem to be happy, and that led to him confronting the manager, I think, and people on the board, for example, in the tunnel, which has now led to an issue at Borussia Dortmund, where I think they've now banned certain people from being in that tunnel area. But as I say, in particular, the Jude Bellingham article, really interesting by Oliver Holt, who has also gone on to sort of suggest that that there's maybe a bit of an issue at the FA where they don't want to upset the Bellinghams because they realise or believe that the Bellinghams are so, what's the word I'm thinking of, important when it comes to constructing deals, because he's the poster boy, that perhaps he'd be one of those players that if you're going to try and sell England to a company, for example, you're going to put Jude Bellingham front and centre of that. And they don't want to upset the apple cart by insisting he do a little bit more when it comes to media duties. Now, he does do his obligatory media duties, but there's those informal briefings that a lot of players are asked to do as well, which he has, as of yet, not participated in, which has supposedly, down to reports, led to a bit of fraction in the England dressing room. Before we carry on this conversation, we've got to find out about a goal in the game between Belarus and Scotland. Paul Mitchell.
It's come for Scotland. They've doubled their advantage, Natalie. It's Belarus 0, Scotland 2, and it was all down to Billy Gilmore. Won the ball, moved himself forward, worked a lovely 1-2 with Shea Adams. He headed it back across goal. McTominay was set to head the ball into the back of the net, and what do you know, Zakhar Volkov decided to do it for Scotland. Tried to head the ball wide and headed it straight past his goalkeeper. So an own goal put through by Belarus, and that means Scotland lead in Hungary against Belarus by 2-0.
Going well then for Scotland in what's just only their second qualifier, we should say, and puts them top of the group as things stand, even though Denmark are leading by a goal to... Oh no, Denmark are 2-0 up. What do I know? They've just scored a second with Christensen getting the goal in the second half as
Big win,
well.
Yeah,
for Denmark.
really big.
Yeah, in Greece in particular, yes, absolutely. But let's get back onto the subject of Jude Bellingham, because it was a subject that was discussed pre-kickoff for that Andorra game, and former England defender Stuart Pearce questioned whether or not Jude Bellingham should be excluded from the team altogether.
Been around the game a long time, and you sort of judge, and sometimes you judge and get it awfully wrong, and I hope I'm awfully wrong on this one. I think this get-together with no Jude in the squad will show the manager, OK, what's the atmosphere amongst the rest of the group? And you have to make big calls within the group. At the moment, we think leaving Jude Bellingham out of the team would be outlandish. But for the greater good, somewhere down the line of the team, if it's the right thing to do, it's always the right thing.
Ooh, so for the greater good of the team, if it's right for the team, maybe it's a decision that has to be made.
Well, he did say, to be fair to Stuart, after that, this could be completely wrong.
Yes,
So
he did. Yeah, no, he did. He did say that. Yeah.
I think he's wrong on so many levels. Just to go back to the original point about his dad, one of the reasons Jude and his brother are so brilliant is the support of the family and the way they've brought those kids up to have such self-belief in themselves and be articulate and be able to conduct themselves in the way they have and to have a winning mentality. A lot of that comes from really supportive parents or coaches, whoever you've got around you. So let's pay the compliment.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I think even though his dad's his agent, he shouldn't be in tunnels and start getting involved when your player, your son, your brother, whoever gets taken off. It's a football issue. Let him get on with it and sort it out. You can't fix those, so stay out of the tunnel. I agree with that. Don't get above your station. Keep doing what you've done so far brilliantly. In terms of Stuart, who I respect enormously, and he's been an England player in a much bigger way than I was, so he's got his own views on it. But ultimately, he is our best player, most important player. If it wasn't for Jude in the Euros, we were done. You know, the last minute overhead kick, the diving header in the first game. But not only that, because I was at a lot of the games, as Stuart was, nobody gives more and takes more risks on the ball and demands the ball more than him. Nobody on that pitch in the Euros at the end of 90 minutes was more fatigued than him. Now, I think Stuart mentioned about playing for himself in one part in that. Now, most players play for yourself deep down, even if you don't admit it. It doesn't really matter what your motivation is, as long as your performance is elite.
Right.
Now, Jude's mentality when he plays is phenomenal in terms of physical output and end product. Continuously makes things happen. He's a match winner. He's a game changer. He's physically brilliant, and he is just able to make magic happen. And he's done it in his first year at Madrid. He's done it in an England shirt from such a young age. He needs protecting. And if it means the FA have to occasionally put up with him not doing the odd interview, or his dad saying he's not doing an interview, because I know he got upset with his grandmother. Was it his grandmother getting knocked on her door or something like that? So what? We haven't got a better player than him in that position.
Yeah, but surely you can then understand why there'd be other players going, well, why is he getting special treatment?
Well, which player would have said that?
I don't know that.
That's just a little bit of narrative to create a story.
So you wouldn't mind if you were in that England setup,
Absolutely
you're being
not.
treated, this one player's being treated differently.
I was in squads with Beckham.
Right.
Let me tell you, he get treated differently.
Okay. But it didn't upset you? Didn't annoy you?
Well, do you know who upset us most? The other lads wound him up about it. It was his own mates, the Man U boys. They did. They used to cane him for it. The rest of us had too much respect for him to say anything.
Right, okay.
But, you know, he got embarrassed at times when he was put on a, different part of the plane or whatever, that story when we flew wherever, and he ended up coming back with us and that. But it's always happened with brilliant players. Beckham was brilliant. He was a game changer. You've got to have him in the team. And if the odd little bit he doesn't, if he does too much press or he does or too little press, who cares if he wins you the game and scores you the free kick that gets you to the World Cup against Greece? Same with Bellingham. The players know. Yes, you might get the odd player who grumbles to his agent or a reporter who he knows well, who says, "Oh, he's a pain because he's always turning. I've got to do another interview because he won't do it." But ultimately, if you ask every player in that England squad, "Do you want Jude in the squad, in the team?" Go, "Yes, please," because if he's in it,
100%,
we've got a hell of a chance of winning this tournament. And I don't understand that bit. The one little bit that he plays for himself. It doesn't matter who you're playing for. Your brother, your mother, your dog, your country, your fans, your manager. As long as your level of performance is really high and your physical intensity is really good, I don't think I've ever watched Jude play, even in friendlies. He gets wound up.
100%.
He cares more than any other player on that pitch, I think. So I don't care about his motivation. It doesn't matter to me.
In fact, I think the problem is the person who breaks ranks to go and complain about someone who's giving 100% for his country.
For not doing interviews.
For not doing interviews. Why would
we don't know that's true, do we?
But well, indeed. But if there was somebody who were to feel that way, because I couldn't really add too much more to what Danny's just said. I think Jude Bellingham is an outstanding footballer, an outstanding ambassador for his country. He's a winner in a squad of players, not many of whom are winners. I think. I know his mother. I've met his mother. I've spoke at length to his mother, and Dan makes a fantastic point about the fact that she and her husband have produced not just one top footballer, but another who is well on his way to becoming a top footballer. The sacrifices and commitment and everything that has gone into making sure that they have the wherewithal to be able to perform at the top level. We can't begin to imagine what they must have done for those kids. And so if it doesn't meet with a lot of people's liking, maybe that's fair enough.
So
I think Oliver Holt's probably got some good points in there. There are times, maybe, I haven't read the whole interview, so this ain't a criticism of him, but, when Jude did get a little bit in his celebrations all about me, and he's, he got banned, didn't he, for swearing at the ref in Madrid and all that. I think a young player who's been through what he's been through is going to have the occasional mishap. But if that mishap comes through, call it overconfidence, call it a little bit of ego, so what? All the best ones did it. When you think of Rooney and Gerrard and their temperaments early in their careers, and that makes the fire. He's got fire. I see somebody. I agree with him on the dad situation. We know he's done a wonderful job as a father and even as an agent, but that getting involved with managers and talk, we don't know if that happened accidentally or he went down to see him, but I don't think that's ever been beneficial.
No, I mean,
I'm with you as well.
No family members should be allowed in the tunnel.
And listen, he's not the first, and I'm sure he would accept that as well.
Yeah, I'm sure
that he's not the first parent. I remember covering tennis, and Jelena Dokic's father was just a force of nature, and not in a good way.
Dad.
The Williams sisters' dad was very
dad.
vocal as well. Exactly. Sport has had vocal parents ever since anybody picked up a cue, or a racket, a club, pulled on a pair of boots. It's always been the case. You go to Sunday League and you see parents basically getting beyond their station. And listen, all the points that Ollie makes Ollie is one of the foremost writers in our industry. So, he's made us think about this whole situation. He is the reason we're debating this at the moment.
Well, he might have some, to be fair to him, he might have some inside info on one or two of the players.
It comes from a personal run-in that he's had with Mark Bellingham around the England sort of training setup, for example. So that's where it spawned from. This
and Mark would have to accept, listen, I've sat here and I've talked about how brilliantly a job they've done with the kids, but any parent would have to accept that. And as you say, we don't know the full circumstances around it.
No, we're hypothesising.
Yes, but any parent would have to know that there are lines you cannot cross.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fascinating debate. And maybe just to kind of... I totally agree with both what you've said about Jude Bellingham and how he's been brought up, and he's got a wonderful family rock behind him. His mum's with him, Mark is with Joe, and that's pretty difficult for families to be split apart like that, but they seem to make it work, and that's fun. And fundamentally, that's amazing. But one thing I will say is, if you believe what Ollie Holt was saying in that article about the FA being too scared to not ask Jude Bellingham to do certain things because they're frightened that potentially he or Mark Bellingham, whoever it is, the Bellinghams in general, will turn around and say, well, no, he's not doing that.
Well, that's normal because they've always done it.
But surely the FA need to be stronger.
For why? Why cut your nose off, spite your face?
Because if it's important,
that's exactly what I was thinking of.
Do you remember when Neil Lennon headbutted Shearer's foot? And Shearer didn't get a ban.
Well, okay. But
would you think sorted that out? That was the FA.
Yeah, okay, maybe it
Beckham's had preferential treatment from the FA, and plenty of times, you know, look, the best manager we ever had, Fergie, preferential treatment with Cantona.
Okay, I hear
it's what you do. The FA obligation is to get England being the most successful they can be and commercially the best they can be. And having Jude Bellingham at the front of that is the best option.
It's called management. It's called man management. I mean, players, you'll have, like you rightly said, you've been in dressing rooms where there have been bad performances and the star player doesn't get it, both barrels, but everybody else does. And I think what Ollie's done is a fantastic job in telling us how the picture lies and leaving it for us to kind of interpret it and debate as we have done. But I think that what the FA are faced with is the kind of thing you see in lots of clubs at the moment where the star player does get indulged. But let's not kid ourselves. Danny's just spelt out the reasons why it is important to indulge top players because you want them available to you.
It's not ideal.
It's not ideal.
You don't want to be in that position. You want them to be toe the line so you don't have to indulge
Well, exactly.
them. Of course, but in terms of why do you asked me why the FA, why they aren't braver? It's because they've got this golden goose, and let's put it in perspective. He's not putting them in a corner every week or every month.
No,
we're only talking about a couple of incidents. The reality is that most of the time he speaks brilliantly, he does great interviews, he's got a bit about him, he doesn't always say the obvious thing, he's got that strut and that confidence about him. He's a dream for most people to talk to an interview when he's on good form.
I interviewed him when he was at Dortmund. I sat with him for about an hour and a half. He's one of the best interviews I've ever done, ever. I mean, he is just such a mature, level-headed, focused young man. He'd achieved
handsome
so much by that time. Honestly,
all-round package.
All-round package.
I know.
You know, and I just feel that we have somebody here who, if we actually appreciate what he brings, as you've been saying, to the table, we could weaponise something devastating and get over the line in a major tournament.
I think if he doesn't, for example, if he wasn't in the World Cup squad, I think we struggle to win it. With him in it, we've got a chance.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right, well, you're tuning in to Kickoff this Monday evening.
Don't you agree? Don't you agree?
I'm being told to go to a break. I've been told to go to a break for the last few minutes. I've let you say your piece. This is talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over. Gambleaware.org. Next, we're going to be discussing the news that Andre Onana is leaving Manchester United, but reportedly almost doubling his wages as a result. Kickoff tonight here on talkSPORT is with Danny Murphy, Darren Lewis and me, Natalie Sawyer. And do you want a chance to win £25,000 in cash plus Oasis tickets?
You don't need it.
I do.
This is to their very last show at Wembley on the 27th of September. Listen up, have a pen and paper handy too, because we're giving you the chance to win our biggest competition yet. 2 lucky winners, yes, that's 2 of you, will win a pair of tickets to see Oasis live at Wembley for the last time, but that's not all. Along with those tickets, one of you will walk away with that massive £25,000 in cash. For all the details and how to enter, even listen up right now, because you could be one of those lucky winners.
18 plus, UK excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win, text the word Oasis to 83338 and you're in the draw. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission. Or you can enter for free by calling 0330 880 338. All entries must be received by the 19th of September at 9 a.m. This is a TalkSPORT limited promotion run on TalkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
All right, good luck with that. Just to point out, you can't enter. Okay. Or you certainly can't win, so don't bother, right? Just so you know. That's obviously
a bit unfair, isn't it?
Exactly.
That's just the rules, I'm afraid. But everyone else can enter, certainly. And by the way, we've had a message in. I just wanted to read this one very quickly, Danny, for you, talking about Jude Bellingham. The problem with England is that we don't appreciate Mavericks. They are all about the drama. It is their passion, that this texter is saying. Is that an element of it, that we don't like the arrogant side of certain players, perhaps, too?
Yeah.
I think Gaza was loved.
Yeah.
I think Hoddle wasn't appreciated.
No, but he didn't get picked often enough.
Yeah.
But I think Gaza was the best example how someone can be taken to the heart.
Yeah, true.
But yeah,
is that because he showed the emotion and we don't see that with Jude?
Maybe. I mean, I think if you think back to the criticism Beckham got for the sending off, and even Rooney with the sending off with Ronaldo and stuff, 2 of our greatest players, brilliant for England.
Yeah.
You know, we are quick to jump in and criticise, and it feels a little bit like that with Jude. We're waiting. You know, he's so perfect. Well, okay, we're going to find something. Well, actually, what we've actually found is more passion that goes over the line sometimes, and sometimes some off-the-field stuff that doesn't suit everybody's eye. What's the good stuff? It far outweighs the bad, doesn't it? I think.
Okay. Let's talk Andre Onana, shall we? Bit of Premier League news for you.
I'd rather do Odegaard.
Oh, crikey.
Go on, then. Nobody cares about Onana. He's gone. Can't save the ball.
Missed you, Daniel.
He can't keep the ball. Save the ball. He's had a nightmare. He's jogged on. Move on.
That's ruined that now, isn't it? We will talk about Martin Odegaard. I presume this is the Tony Adams quote. So we'll come to that a little bit later on. But that's where obviously the Arsenal legend has been discussing the fact that perhaps a rethink on the Arsenal captain situation. But that's to come. Very quickly then on Andre Onana. He has agreed to join Trabzonspor on a season-long loan. And the Turkish club will cover the goalkeeper's entire Manchester United salary and are offering extra bonuses too, which means he'll earn almost double at Trabzonspor than what he's earning at Manchester United. Why wouldn't he move there if they're going to offer him all of this? I mean, ever been in a similar situation where people are going to pay more for you on loan?
No, I mean, in some ways, forget the money. I do feel for him a bit, because being at Manchester United recently for anyone, outfield or goalkeeper, has been high pressure. every mistake, every bad performance, collectively and individually, just gets scrutinised more than most because they're such a big club. And he has had spells where he's done okay, and you think he's turned the corner, and then all of a sudden, a couple of mistakes again, he's back to square one, and he's never found that momentum to actually feel confident enough in his own position, sometimes getting left out for Bindia, who struggled as well, both of them mainly on crosses. But the amount of mistakes for any goalkeeper are going to end up meaning you're not going to play. And he's got a wonderful opportunity to go and play first team football, regain his confidence with a little bit of icing being extra money, if that's the case. So go there, get some confidence away from the spotlight, build yourself back up again. He seems like a decent bloke, to be honest, every time he's interviewed. He fronts up, he admits his mistakes. There's something to like about him, but he really has struggled. And to be honest, sometimes the kindest thing you can do for a player is take them out the firing line, and I think he was at that point.
I think that I agree with you, fronts up. He always has a smile on his face. I've never actually seen him looking as though the pressure is actually getting to him, even though, as you say, there is something about Old Trafford, Manchester United, the team, the squad, the culture, the environment that literally takes good players down a notch.
It's infectious, isn't it?
It's infectious. And I think as far as he's concerned, it might... Well, listen, I think he's a victim of a really poor system that simply does not work. Amorim's system, his three at the back, it's a dog's dinner. He can't string two wins together. The system doesn't work. And any goalkeeper, and this is the next point, it puts a huge amount of pressure on that guy who's just signed, when actually he should get some time to get his feet under the table, and that would have been the case if Anana had stayed.
Well, he
but
might
now,
put Bindia in for a bit.
Well,
so obviously the goalkeeper they brought in is from Royal Antwerp, the Belgian goalkeeper. I heard him say his name is Senna Lommens.
Okay.
Just so we know. But yeah, he's just 23. And you just automatically you just said there, sorry, Danny, that any Manchester United player now is under so much more scrutiny, it feels, than anybody else, that it seems it would be a heck of a risk to put him in. Why then did they not go for a player that actually knows how to play in the Premier League too, in Emi Martinez?
I totally agree. But then if you look at the transfer policy at Manchester United, it's not really made much sense for a long, long time. And you can speak better to me about what the pressures might be. I don't think it has.
I generally.
Cunha and Mbeumo doesn't make sense.
Oh, I think they...
Well, Cunha and Mbeumo, right?
Yeah.
But what
because
they needed...
they've gone for two players who are used to the Premier League, getting better. Both should be hungry to do more in their careers. Not the type of players they've gone for in the past. And actually, both scored a lot of goals and established themselves pretty well.
Where's been their biggest problem?
Midfield?
Scoring goals.
And not in defence. I mean, last season,
both.
well, exactly.
Just the problem there, do you know what the problem there is?
If you look at
you said a question, we had three different answers.
No.
There you go.
The statistical answer is scoring goals.
Yeah, okay.
Much more than the defensive, statistically.
It's just heresy here, because I'm going to slightly disagree in so much as I remember when George Graham went to Arsenal and they were so leaky, and the first thing, and I read Tony Adams' book, the first thing he did was work on defence.
Yeah.
He said, we were not scoring goals, but we can deal with that, but I want you making sure the back door is shut.
Yeah.
Manchester United's back, it's just not been the case. They've been secure for a long time.
It was all bad last season.
Yes.
All of it. But the lack of creativity in goals in relation to other teams compared to their defensive record compared to other teams is just...
So wouldn't argue that, you wouldn't make the case that if you have that security, then you can start to find ways to win games, but you've got that stability within the team that you've made yourselves hard to beat?
Yes, so if you're asking me, would I have tried to get more players in both ends of the pitch? Yes. But I think they had to get some firepower, because the way he wants to play, which he does not want to deviate from, which is beyond my comprehension, means that you've got to be able to play counter at times, because the 3 becomes a 5 against good teams, and they have to play counter, and they've got pace now. And also, when you're playing teams at Old Trafford who do sit back, you need, when getting that final third against a low block, if you like, you need players who can beat people, and those two can. Last year they had nothing.
No,
their attack last year was well, what's the word? What's the word? Something less. It had no firepower at all. Anyway,
but I think you're
defensively, when you break it down, if you look at the the international players they've got, they should be better defensively. I think the shape lets them down, and the keeper's struggled.
And that all of what you've just said there is the reason why, in some respects, for me, Onana's a little bit of a scapegoat. You can't get away from the fact that the mistakes are the mistakes. There's no getting away from that at all. But I'm not necessarily sure, A, him going is going to solve the problem, and B, them sticking the pressure now all on a 23-year-old who's never played in English football is going to be the answer as well, because, as you say, that setup at the back, it's a shambles. And Fulham are not the first club to score against them. Other clubs will do it as well. They
actually, really, when you break it down, the first game against Arsenal, they actually played well.
Yeah.
And they look good defense. They actually looked solid and caused Arsenal problems and should have won.
Where's the but?
Well, they lost on a corner with a keeper.
There you go.
So there you go. But in terms of what you're looking to improve, they looked better. First half against Fulham should have been winning. Good starts of the game. Obviously, I saw the Burnley game as well, where they, again, should have been comfortably. They won in the end, but comfortably ahead. So it's not all doom and gloom.
It's not. But you've made the point to me privately many times, and we can see from the statistics what Man United don't have is consistency. They can they
be good one week
exactly.
Yeah.
They can be brilliant against one team, particularly top teams where there is the demand that they turn up, and then against a mid-ranking side or a lower division side lower in the division, they're poor. And I think that lack of consistency means that. And not only that, you're Manchester United. You can't just be good for 20 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes, 60 minutes. The demand is that you're good for 90 minutes.
Yeah, but they'll actually win games this season playing badly, which they couldn't last season. Because
they won't win two in a row.
Well, let's just say,
Probably not.
You know, you said
I hope you're right.
You said it's not all doom and gloom. You're right in the sense that they're 9th in the table. The teams below them, Man City, for example, Newcastle, Villa. Look, I know it's early stage. I will caveat it with that. But it's not all doom and gloom.
Fixed everything.
I know you're not saying that.
And I think the system's the biggest killer for them, because if you play two in midfield and you don't have the physical capability of getting about the pitch, when the gaps are big and you're under pressure against good teams, you're going to get done. The reality is there a progress? Have they looked better in their first 3 league games than they did last season? To me, I think they did. They've lost. I don't know if Cunha's going to be fit for the derby this weekend, because he came off in the Burnley game, didn't he? That would be a blow if he wasn't. And also Mason Mount, who's had 2 good games. Yeah, he got injured as well.
Okay, but again, I look at that side that's going to go into the derby, and I'm telling you now, Marmoush and Haaland score past that.
I fancy City.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge game coming away in the return of the Premier League this coming weekend. Let's quickly check in with how Scotland are getting on as we close in on the final stages. Paul Mitchell.
Yeah, we're in stoppage time, in fact, in the last 10 seconds or so. In fact, the referee's just blown his whistle, decided to bring it to close a little bit early. It's Belarus 0, Scotland 2 at full time. Shea Adams with the goal in the first half after 43 minutes. Lovely work on the right-hand side. The header back across by McTominay, and Shea Adams poked the ball home. Scott McTominay, outstanding tonight for Scotland. Had to leave the field with a broken boot in the end. He got substituted, but he was terrific. Unlucky not to be on the score sheet tonight. Scotland second. Put it out of any doubt, came after 65 minutes. Brilliant work from Billy Gilmour, worked a 1-2 with Shea Adams. His header, of course, was going for McTominay, but Zakar Volkov intercepted and headed it past his own goalkeeper. Scotland should have had more goals. McGinn and Adams both passed up chances, but delight for Scotland. It's been a difficult place for teams to come and win this venue in Hungary, where Belarus are being forced to play at the moment, but it's finished here. Belarus 0, Scotland 2.
Paul, thank you very much. And it's full time in the other group game, where Denmark have beaten Greece by 3-0. A certain Rasmus Højlund scoring that 3rd goal for the Danes. OK, on the way next, we'll focus on the return of the Premier League this coming weekend, and in particular on those comments by Tony Adams on the captaincy at Arsenal. Martin Ødegaard has responded to them. That's next. Good evening. Welcome along to Kickoff this Monday night here on talkSPORT. It is Darren Lewis, Danny Murphy, Natalie Sawyer with you until 10. And the Premier League returns this weekend. And we have a double header of live football coming your way this Saturday. The game day lunchtime exclusive comes from the Emirates as Arsenal take on Nottingham Forest with Reshman Chowdhury, Sam Matterface and Stuart Pearce. And then there's a bonus evening game, 8 o'clock. It's a West London derby as Brentford take on Chelsea with Faye Carruthers, Joe Shannon and Dean Ashton. If we focus very much on that first game then, that Arsenal Forest one, interesting comments from the Arsenal captain, Martin Ødegaard, who's responded to what Tony Adams has had to say. Tony Adams has been a bit critical of Ødegaard, and he sort of feels as though he's not really captain material. He thinks, if anything, it's Declan Rice who Mikel Arteta should be thinking about handing the armband to. This is what Ødegaard had to say in response. I don't care that much, to be honest. Everyone can have their opinion and say what they want, and I'm all right with that. I can't care about what everyone says. There's a lot of negative and positive things to say, but I can't let it affect me. That's what I've thought throughout my career. Do you understand, first of all, why Tony Adams would think that he might not be captaincy material, Danny?
Yeah, I do, in that he's a creative number 10 whose game is always going to be a little bit up and down based on your end product and how open the game is. I mean, he's a terrific player and his work ethic's phenomenal, great pro. Conducts himself brilliantly. I love how he plays the game. He's brave. I know he hasn't been at his best recently, but he's still a terrific player. The question is for me, I think it's worth bringing up from Tony actually, is that would you enhance Declan Rice's performance and would it release some pressure off Ødegaard to get him back to the level? So would it be better for Arsenal by doing that? Now, I think the easy answer is, would Declan grow as a captain and give more than yes, I think he'd love it. And I think he'd embrace it. Would it free up Ødegaard or would it knock his confidence? I think it'd free him up. Take a little bit of responsibility.
Have you been in a team where someone was captain and that was taken off them? And,
yeah.
And what was that like?
Sami Hyypiä was our captain at Liverpool. Brilliant footballer, colossus of a man. was weighing him down.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was weighing him down. His performance has dropped a little bit from his ridiculously high standards. We were having a little bit of a tough time. I also think as well, there's different responsibilities come a captain that always aren't on the pitch. You know, having like sometimes you have to have your team meetings and chat to the boys.
Because I was going to ask, because on paper we always say a football captain is just more of a figurehead than anything. It's not like a cricket captain who has to make proper team selections and decisions.
That's true, but I think also what they wanted to do, and a bit like we're talking about Declan, is they decided Stevie was ready early,
right?
And they did it mid-season, which no one was expecting, out of the blue.
Yeah.
And Sammy took it well, and he went whew, like the pressure dropped.
Right. Okay.
And it might have been coincidental. It might not have been overbearing for him. He might just having a bad spell. You're allowed a bad spell as a captain, but Stevie went like that with the armband. He took off and loved the responsibility. So the decision was a shock. It was the right one.
I think Declan in a modern era, and I agree with everything you said about Odegaard. He's a superb player, great tactician. He was up there in the running for Player of the Year.
Yeah, season before last.
Terrific, you know, he was really, really.
He still is good. He's still very good.
Absolutely, but I think I look at Declan not just in terms of his ability on the pitch, not just in terms of his communication skills and his leadership and his ability, his willingness to take responsibility, but also, for me, he's a captain for the social media era as well. You know, he harnesses the fan base, which, you know, and the Arsenal fan base love him and they love what he does on social. And we've all seen what he's been up to on social media as well. But he's someone who can do it all. And on the pitch, you know, he does have that ability to inspire people with his game. And Odegaard, what he said was quite interesting, because he said, I don't listen to everyone. Well, Tony Adams isn't anyone. You know, Tony Adams is a legend of that football club. And
that's why I wonder if it would sting a little bit.
I think it would do. But I also think it's worth him listening to that as well, because Tony Adams knows all about the desire and the passion of the Arsenal fan base and the intensity. And it would be like a legend of Liverpool saying to somebody, you're not good enough, and you say...
He will have heard it, and he'd have listened to a degree.
Yeah, I think...
Now, he'd have made a decision, don't want to hear that, actually. I'm all right with me being calm. I enjoy it, and he might really love it. I don't know.
I just feel he should have acknowledged where it had come from and accepted, you know, yes, this is...
No, because,
you mean somebody who's an icon for this club.
Maybe. But
I think the Rice, for me, I do see what Tony's saying. I do see that Rice would be a better driver for the club. Listen, all of this might just inspire Odegaard to lift his game even further. And I think
I don't think he needs this to inspire his game himself, because he's
not started great so far this season.
He was sub on in last game because he's been injured. But I actually think it would not be detrimental to Arsenal or either of the players to do that swap. I know Arteta's not going to do it, but they've won nothing with him as captain.
Yeah.
Take the risk.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just quickly surmise what Tony Adams actually had to say, because kind of what you alluded to there with Sami Hyypiä. He sort of said with Odegaard, he thinks he would allow him to play with a bit more freedom.
Yeah.
And then on Declan Rice, he also said, hang on, where is it? That he just sees him as a captain and actually believes that here we go. Every now and again, as a manager, you have to put someone in who reflects you, who reflects the football club that you think can actually take you to the next level. And then when asked if he thought Rice was that, and would reflect Arteta, he said, I think he's actually better than Arteta. And then he went on to say that he was urging Arteta to make this change, because he said, you're not going to win the league with Odegaard as captain. I mean, that's very personal.
It is. And listen, Tony Adams has earned enough in the game to be personal. He knows what it takes to lead a massive club like Arsenal to silverware, to winning the league, to winning the double. Adams knows what he's talking about, so I'm not going to make him wrong. And I think as far as... It's interesting looking at the Premier League now, because there are some people who are captains of clubs who would not have been captain in the years when those clubs are really big. Bruno Fernandes would never have been a captain at Manchester United.
He's progressed with his... He's progressed with that role.
Would you say so, when he was so easily put off for that penalty kick again? Was it Fulham?
Well, that was just a silly.
Yes, that was
That was
yes,
but
When I
this
say
is what I'm
progress-
saying. Iconic, inspirational captains don't get drawn into that kind of.
No, you're right in what I agree with you what you're saying, but generally, the one thing I'd say about Bruno Fernandes is over the last couple of years when he's been captain, and the histrionics and the silliness and waving your arms about has dissipated a little bit over the last 12 months.
You think?
Yeah, and I think what he's done to keep his level of performance as high as he has, because he's been their best player for a few years.
He's been definitely been their best
and
player.
probably one of the only few you could say he's durable. He's always out there. Come criticism, bad performances, he puts himself out there. Now, I don't think he's a central midfielder first and foremost. I'll go. Let's go there. But he has continually pushed and tried to drive those around him and keep his level high. I think mainly because obviously he's a good character, but I think also because he's the captain.
But I think that the irony of all of that is that I think his game would be as high as, and I think he'd do if he wasn't.
Possibly.
Because I think the things that he gets drawn into, if you look at a lot of his yellow cards, I think it was a colleague, Jonathan Norcroft, who made this point in the Sunday Times. A lot of his yellow cards, I think the season before last, would come at half-time. Just as they're going into the dressing room, and he's remonstrating with referees. That's not the conduct of a captain.
Let me clarify my point before I get quite... Sorry, I know we've got to go break, but the reality is he an ideal captain? No. Is United a club that's steeped in history of great captains that are better than him? Yes. But I think the armband for Bruno Fernandes has kept his level and motivated him to a higher level than he would if he didn't have it.
Do you think he wouldn't play that way if he didn't have the armband?
In a word.
Not as often.
Okay. We've got to take a break. You're tuning in to Kickoff on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes, 18 and over, gambleaware.org. Next, we'll cast our eye as quick as we can on the Premier League table and how it's shaping up at both the top and bottom. Goodness me, I can't believe we're fast approaching 10 o'clock. It has been busy here on Kickoff with Danny Murphy, Darren Lewis and me, Natalie Sawyer. And we're going to quickly rattle through perhaps how we see this Premier League table really shaping up in the sense of how we think it's all going to work out. As things stand, obviously, it's been a good start for Liverpool. 3 wins out of 3. Arsenal, they've got, 2 wins and a defeat from their first 3 games. That's the same for Chelsea. Many were expecting Manchester City to be right up there, but they've already suffered 2 defeats. And yet, it feels of all the Manchester clubs being talked about, it's more United than it is City. Should the alarm bells be ringing for City, Danny?
It's a tad worrying, yeah, because conceding goals and being open as much as they have is not something we're used to seeing over the years. They tend to see out games really well and don't control games better than they have. But they've got a lot of new players. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't jump just yet and say they've got no chance because they've got so much talent.
Yeah.
But I would suggest looking at them now defensively, they don't look as comfortable or as solid as they have done in previous times. I think that you can get at them. So they're going to have to score a hell of a lot of goals in the big games, I mean. Mm. It'd be interesting to see how United go there and do it the weekend. Liverpool haven't hit the ground running and won 3, which is a great sign. But they've got loads of new players to integrate as well. Arsenal, new players. You know, there's so many new players coming and trying to at this busy start of the season when you've got international football, players getting fit, some coming in the window really late, building relationships with other players, understanding how your new team play or how your new teammates play. So I think we just got to let it settle. Mm-hmm. I don't think I would go... In years gone by, I'd go quite bold. I wouldn't go really bold on anything right now, other than, Liverpool and Arsenal are definitely going to be up there.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I would say for sure.
If we're talking about Liverpool very quickly, obviously they spent a heck of a lot of money, as we all know, in this summer window. Isak being that deadline day signing, but Hugo Ekitike, playing that number 9 role, has done brilliantly well. How do you see this working, the dynamic of these two?
I think we'll see Ekitike more off the left.
Yeah.
I was speaking to Julien Laurent, who watched him a lot at PSG, said he played off the left, did it well at times when he did get a game. He can also play as a 10. So obviously Wirtz ain't going to play every game. And also Isak's going to take a month to get fit. So he's going to be in the team for the next few weeks. I don't think we'll see that much of Isak. He'll come off the bench. And Isak's only really had 1 full season in English football where he's stayed fit. So you need an abundance of talent in forward areas to win Champions League and Premier League.
Just to say, with Isak, he played 20 minutes today for Sweden, earned a yellow card in that 20-minute spell as they lost to Kosovo in a World Cup qualifier.
Yeah, they're struggling.
Which is quite a shock. Does it ramp up the pressure with all the money that Liverpool have spent?
Yes and no. I mean, they'd have been delighted. Slot would have been delighted to have been able to spend that much money. But if you look at the way that they've played so far, they looked really good against Arsenal. In the first game, they looked a bit open. I think that's fair to say. But they look better against Arsenal. I think they are still finding their feet, but they still look quite intimidating as a team. That's the word I would use to describe them. And I think, given the way that Ekitike started, to have Isak, if you like, in reserve, he's only going to get better in November or December, is fantastic for them. But also, they are not predictable. That's the key thing that struck me from all that spending in the summer. At the end of last season, it was Salah, maybe Gakpo, but Diaz I was finding a bit inconsistent and a bit frustrating, even though he is a good player. But I just didn't see him to be consistent enough. Nunes was missing too many opportunities.
They've got loads of options. They're going to be hard to beat.
Okay. Well, it's going to be an interesting Premier League, that is for sure, this season. And we've run out of time. We can't talk about the relegation picture, thankfully.
Thank God I've got trains to catch.
Well, I was thinking more from a Brentford perspective, but I'm quite happy to ignore that. Right, that has been a lot of fun over the last 3 hours. Thank you very much for tuning in. On the way next, it's the Sports Bar, of course, with Jason Cundy and Jermaine Pennant.